point was that she sent him to the store 3 times to buy one item. So, you know what that tells you. Either he wasn't listening or he just really had a memory problem. So he came. He actually missed his appointment the first time. He forgot it. And he came. Yeah, right? The big clue. So when I saw Arnold, we did a test. And according to the test, it showed that he was medically what we'll call mild cognitive impairment, or for in layman terms, just early. You know, he's a young man, handsome and all. You know, he can't have Alzheimer's. So, we were thinking, what are we going to do? So I did mention that, I've been reading these books and I've been researching and I've seen so many new things that if he was willing to try. And he was, what other option really do I have? I could probably take Aricept and still be a vegetable in a couple of years. Or I could try this. You had nothing to lose, really. So I did some more research, and I put together a protocol. And you have to remember, this is just research from books. So it's not like I had it all organized out. I called Dr. Lewis because I read his book, never met the man in my life, tracked him down. That's the beauty of internet. And I called him, and, I got some pointers from him. And we set together what we call a protocol. And that's what he would follow. So that was about September. October was when he really started. And I saw him last month. And we were real excited because he wanted to know if his scores had changed. I wanted to know if his scores had changed. People telling you, oh, they feel better or they think they've improved. It's not really, it's very subjective. So we wanted something objective. And when we repeated it, he actually went back to normal. It was actually 1 point more than the average for normal. So this is something that can work. And as I say, it's not something I have in a little corner. It's on the internet. It's in books. It's not a secret formula that I'm going to present, But as Dr. Trempe and Dr. Lewis will present, you'll see that the studies are there for improvement. So I do want to have a clinic where we can treat it. I don't say everybody will be cured. I mean, we have antibiotics and people still die from pneumonia. But if we can make a difference, then that's all we're asking. Oops. That's me doing this. Yeah. And the third part of what we want to provide is a specialized dementia care facilities. So this is Maxine Simmons' baby. And Maxine is the other part of Beams. She's a clinical coordinator at the hospital, and she's run the CCU for a number of years, and the RDU, which is the Alzheimer's unit when it was in operation. And this is something that she's always wanted to do. So we've partnered in that. We've come together. We've bring together almost 40 years of experience between the two of us. To kind of make this happen. So we're up for the challenge. We know it's not going to be an easy road, but we're up for the challenge. Okay, when it comes up, so I saw this in Alzheimer's Research UK, and they were given a statistics that if we could postpone dementia for 5 years, so postpone everybody getting dementia for 5 years, just how much we can change things. So their projection is if we postpone dementia for 5 years, we can decrease the amount of people with dementia by 33%. I mean, that is awesome. All you need to do is their doctor. Okay. Dr. Brain, which is such a great name, right? She's from the UK. She did a study that showed that you can decrease your chances of getting dementia by 50% if you exercise. I mean, that's free. That's accessible to everyone. If I could make that into a pill, I'd be a billionaire. And that's something we can all do. So that is just some of the things that is out there that I don't know where we have gotten this idea that we just have to sit back and wait for this to overtake us. You know, it's not true.
Hi, my name is Jean Wilson, and I'm a 58-year-old mother of 3. My primary care physician, Dr. Scott, just recently started offering a new in-office test that will assess my brain health. This has always been a concern of mine since my mother developed dementia late in her life. We noticed that she forgot simple things like important dates, the names of her friends and grandchildren, and even got lost driving. We just thought Mom was getting older. And now I notice that I'm forgetting more. My doctor keeps an eye on my health, checking my blood pressure, heart rhythm, and blood tests, so why not check my brain too? Dr. Scott thought the 10-minute CogniView test would be a good way to see how I was doing and let me know where I stand. So as part of my regular appointment, I decided to check my brain health. CogniView is a one-of-a-kind, FDA-approved computerized testing system developed so primary care doctors can measure and monitor brain health and detect early signs of dementia.
Good morning, Mrs. Wilson. I am Paul, Dr. Scott's medical technician. He shared your concerns about your brain health, and we were going to take the CogniView test today.
Yes, that's right. I have to admit I'm a bit nervous.
Oh, there's nothing to be nervous about. It takes about 10 minutes, and you're just going to be turning this wheel right here. And once it's over, Dr. Scott will go over the results with you.
Great.
Okay, so before we get started, I need to enter some information. Can you spell your first name for me?
Jean, Jean.
And your middle initial?
A.
And how do you spell your last name?
Wilson, Wilson.
Okay, I'm going to have you move over here. Each part of the test begins with directions on the screen. Turn the wheel to move the green wedge to your answer. There are 10 tests that take a total of 10 minutes. Are you ready to start the test?
I'm ready.
I'll be nearby.
Wow, that wasn't so bad.
Are you finished?
That was easy. I understand from Dr. Scott that it was measuring how certain parts of my brain are working.
That's correct. Dr. Scott will go over the results with you and make plans for any next steps.
Okay.
Well, I got some good news, Mrs. Wilson. Your brain health is excellent, so there's no need to be worried. Okay? Your composite score, which is this number right here, that combines the results of all the test scores. Now, you scored an 87, which is excellent. Anything at or above 75 indicates your brain functions are not impaired.
Oh, that's great news.
Well, I'm always happy to deliver great news. And listen, if you have any new concerns, you please let me know. But other than that, I will see you at your next regular appointment.
Thank you, Dr. Scott. I'm so happy to have done this test.
Glad you stopped in.
The advantage of bringing cognitive care to primary care is that the test is done in your doctor's office, where you know the doctor and the doctor knows you. It only takes 10 minutes and creates a one-page permanent record, interpreted by your doctor, who can let you know where you stand. The CogniView test is reimbursable and can be repeated in any doctor's office.
So this is the test that we're thinking of bringing here. We hope to start testing June 1, all things being equal. So if anyone, we're going to be passing around some papers just to get an idea if this is something people would be interested in. You can just put your names on it. It'll just get us an idea of, was this a good choice? Is it something people are interested in? And we'll contact you when it becomes available here. So really that really is our aim. And it says if you truly want to change your life, you must first be willing to change your mind. And I think for a long time we have just been in this rut of accepting things. and thinking we can do nothing. There's always something you can do. There's always something. You may not get a fabulous result, but there's always something you can do. And this whole summit is about changing your mind, changing how we think of dementia and Alzheimer's, and changing just how we think about our life in general and making the change. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thanks, everybody, for coming. My name is Dr. Tom Lewis. We're playing a little musical computers, so I'm not really going to be speaking at this point. A little later on, Dr. Trempe's going to speak next. But what I want to show you, right to Joanne's point, Dr. Cousins' point, is that you need to change your mind about things. And so I'm going to show you one or maybe two videos, if I can figure out, because I'm not the technical guy, to get my computer up and show a couple videos of some patients that are actually very typical of what Dr. Trempe sees and the kinds of results he gets in his clinic up at Harvard. He's been on Harvard staff for 41 years. So he's no rookie at this. So let me see if I can cue this up. Oh, we need to give you some sound. And how do you do?
Think about it, and tuck my thumb, and then squeeze with my fingers, and stop the shaking altogether.
And now you can hold the cup, and before just hold the cup.
I can hold the cup. I can write a little better. I can eat with food.
Oh, you can write better too.
Oh yes, my penmanship is horrible. I couldn't even read my own writing. Large print.
And now you can write now?
I can write better now.
Yeah.
I'm not flowing like I used to.
But you can understand what you're writing.
Yes.
And when you hold the cup, just hold the cup now. Before you could hardly hold the cup.
Right, without really shaking.
It was really shaking.
Oh, like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's no exaggeration.
No exaggeration.
Wow.
You'd be going like this,
Yeah.
or like that, and he would have to constantly correct his feet in order to stay upright, or grab onto something immediately so he wouldn't go over.
And now he's doing better.
Oh, much better. He doesn't know.
When I walk outside now, and this is on a dirt road,
Yeah.
so it's uneven, a little uneven, and with a hill at each end of it.
Yeah.
I walk, I can say, a quarter mile, and I can do it by...
And you don't use your walker.
I don't use my walker. I can do it without my cane.
Then you're getting better.
Oh, I am. It feels great.
Okay, so here's a gentleman that had Parkinson's disease. So Joanne talked about dementia, but it's really all the neurodegenerative diseases. They're all very much interrelated, from glaucoma, which is a neurodegenerative disease, to Parkinson's, to Alzheimer's. Obviously,
Then
before.
Try like you're going to bring it up like you're trying to drink. Okay, then put it back down. Okay. Do you have that there? See, then if I give it to you, see I'll give it to you now. Try to take it again. Are you doing it? Yeah. Okay, then put your hand on the just like that here, close to you. You're just like that. Your hand.
Yeah, hold them out like you're
Yeah, that's
relaxing.
good. So you can see the
I'm
hand?
right on his hand.
It shakes more when you like that.
They shake more. That's what I want to show. So next time we'll do that. Try to put your finger like that together.
Not fists.
No.
Just leave your fingers loose, Dad. Not fists.
How long ago before that you were starting to stir up coffee with your cup?
I would say about 2 months.
2 months before I saw you.
Yeah.
And you were pretty good shape that you could hardly.
Yeah, it would be stabbed, and then he'd try to get it up to his mouth, and it would fall, and then he couldn't find it again. So.
And now he doesn't do that? No? And what about this cup of coffee?
It would shake so much that he'd have to have a straw in it,
Yeah.
so he wouldn't spill it all over himself.
Yeah. Now, when did the memory start to
Oh.
go on? And how long has that been going on? The memory?
Oh, nothing wrong with my memory.
No, he has the memory. He just can't remember words. He can describe.
Typical husband, right?
Whatever, but he can't remember what the word is sometimes.
And what we're doing very often that could improve.
Yeah, it has.
It has improved?
Yeah.
How can you tell that that's improved?
Because when I'm talking to him, he doesn't ask me so much.
The same question again.
or, you know, he doesn't describe as much. Like, he goes, you know that thing that's round and orange? You know, like, it's an orange.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Now you ask for an orange.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be as...
Can you just take the cup and hold it like
Pretend you're going to bring it to your mouth and drink out of it. Oh, that's certainly much better.
And before it was like this.
Yes.
Even with the fork.
How long can you hold it steady?
I don't know.
See, before he was putting his elbow.
Yes, it was vibratory.
Before you were putting your 2 hands side by side like that, yeah. Not bad.
No, it was like this.
Yes. So is it 7 months of therapy? Did I get that right?
January. Right? Since we've been seeing.
But before he was shaking my
Oh yeah. And he'd bother, like, he wouldn't even finish his plate after a while because it was like not worth fighting for the food.
And now he does. He eats all.
Oh yeah, he has a good appetite.
I think you're doing better. Excellent.
So as Dr. Trempe and myself go through our presentation, just realize that what we're talking about is not theoretical, it's actual. Dr. Trempe sees patients at the age of, I'm not sure I'm allowed to give away, but 76 years old, and he sees patients on a regular daily basis up in Boston, and these are the kinds of results he gets with folks. And so we're going to present to you the kinds of diagnostic tests we do, and even to some extent some of the preventative measures and treatments that we can do as well. And like to Dr. Cousins' point, it's not a magic pill. There's no magic pill out there. It's a process. Chronic disease takes decades to entrench. We can measure it. Dr. Cousins will probably bring that device to measure brain function and cognition to Bermuda. But keep in mind that some of the tests that Dr. Trempe can do, and we'll be doing through Dr. Cousins and other folks on the island who'll be working with Dr. Cousins and with our help, can detect the earliest signs of this disease before these cognitive tests would even register anything, because the tests we do are much more precise and accurate.
Good evening. Wow, what a beautiful sight. You certainly turned out tonight, which is a demonstration of how important this topic is. Now, for those of you who may not know me, I am not Dr. Trempe. I am not a medical doctor, and I don't play one on TV. But I am Dr. Fleming, and we at Age Concern, which is an advocacy group for older adults on the island, are very excited about the information that is about to be shared this evening by Dr. Trempe and later his colleague, Dr. Lewis. So it's my pleasure to introduce them both. I'll start with Dr. Trempe, who received his MD degree from Ottawa Medical School in Canada. He furthered his studies at Harvard's Scheffen's Eye Research Institute and Massachusetts Eye and Ear Infirmary in Boston. He has been on staff at Harvard Medical School Teaching Hospital since the 1970s. He is the author of hundreds of medical scientific papers and 2 pending patents. Still pending? When Dr. Trempe started diagnosing and treating his eye patients for systemic diseases back in the 1980s, their eyes did indeed get better. In fact, they got much better and stayed much better compared to people who were treated as if their eyes existed in isolation from the rest of their bodies. Most importantly, many patients with serious disease beyond the eye reported back to Dr. Trempe that these and other conditions improved upon his eye treatments. One of those conditions that improved was Alzheimer's disease, which is why we're here tonight. Dr. Trempe and his team believe that Alzheimer's can be treated and the disease can be slowed, stopped, or reversed in many ways. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Trempe.
Yeah, no. My 2 pattern, I took them to let them run out for people not to pattern what I'm doing. Then I took the pattern to make sure that nobody does it, you know. And that's the kind of what I do. I didn't want anybody to control that. Anybody, all the tests that I do, anybody can do them, and they don't have to worry about somebody making a pattern out of it and making a very expensive test. Oh, good. You see the importance of the eye. Early biomarker of cardiovascular and neurodegenerative disease. Eye disease are very deadly. And when you see patients with eye problems, they have significant increase in mortality. And people have two eyes. If you start that problem with one eye, if you're a good doctor, it doesn't go in the other eye. And then the eye is a very good thing to study on patient, and you measure it like you'll see. You measure everything in the eye extremely accurately. See, cataract, age-related macular degeneration, and glaucoma should not be considered as an eye disease. It should be considered as a biomarker for neurodegenerative disease. I want to discuss the importance of the eye in early detection of neurodegenerative disease. Demonstrate that neurodegenerative disease affects the eye, and the neurodegenerative disease are detected during a routine eye examination. And the only thing you have to do is to ask your doctor when you have an eye exam, do I have any evidence of neurodegenerative disease in my eye? I have glaucoma, macular disease, do I have drusen? Those happen 10, 15 years before you start to have memory problems. Your problem is involved a long time before. Then if you, like you said, if you just delay the disease, 5 years, you decrease the incidence of Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease will ruin every mid-school system in every country in the world. Population is getting older, and it's very expensive. I was on the plane coming in, the lady said they pay $10,000 a month to keep her mother in a nursing home. And as you also see, Alzheimer's, when people are old, you keep them in a nursing home. When they're younger and they have mental problems, put them in jail. The same thing. People put to jail have inflammation in their brain. So then, treating those diseases will save a lot of money to all the taxpayers. Everyone agrees that early detection of disease is essential to control the costs. The problem is that to detect the disease early in their way before. See, if you do an MRI, it's $5,000. You will never do that on the whole population every 4 or 5 years. This is where everyone agrees that early detection is good. This will never work because the great majority of individuals do not have screening done. And even if they have good medical insurance, most people won't go for mammography, they don't go for prostate testing, even people with good insurance. And a lot of people don't have good insurance. For example, they might have had a screening done. Eye are an integral part of the brain are affected by the same neurodegenerative disease as the brain, except we see it much sooner. The eye is part of the brain, and sick eye and a sick. When I say brain, the eye is part of the brain. When in my lecture, when I mention the brain, I mention the eye too. See, if you put an air bubble in the eye, sometimes we do that surgery and the patient looks down. The air bubble very often goes in the brain. Then sometimes we put silicone oil, heavier than water, to put the retina down, and we have the patient lie on their back, and the silicone goes in the brain. And people think the eye is not part of the brain. They're wrong. It's the eye. When you talk about the brain, you talk about the eye. It's the same thing. There are no eye diseases, and the brain separated. A simple eye examination, a doctor can tell you if you have early change in your eye related to the aging process, degeneration. And when you go to an eye doctor, see that I want to see you have an eye exam for new glasses, but I also want to tell you to tell me if I have any evidence of early change in the back of my eyes. And you have perfect vision for 10 years before those diseases start to affect the eye. See, primary care doctor, internists, and neurologists, and psychiatrists, and our elected official needs to change, in charge of our jail, will have to be educated about the importance of the eye as early biomarker of cardiovascular disease and neurodegenerative disease. An eye examination, where we do a simple procedure in office, takes a few minutes, and I think anybody with a psychiatric problem, anybody going to jail, you should examine them. Anybody that gets sudden depression. If you have a young kid that suddenly gets depressed, I just had a 22-year-old gentleman from a good family, suddenly, very good student, suddenly completely decompensated. They put him in a mental institution for 3 or 4 months, and he started to have problems. Look in the eye, it's toxoplasmosis. Recently, I had a young kid, 6.5 years old, started to break everything in the house. The mother had to call the police. They had to wrap him up. They put him in a mental institution. And that kid has toxoplasmosis in the brain too. But if suddenly in the family, somebody
things go very bad. From the, within a day or two, you start to feel very bad, depressed, and things like that. The brain is inflamed. Then you should have an eye exam. It doesn't happen in a depression. Is not something that they think it's a feeble mind. It's not that. The brain is inflamed when people are depressed. See, then optical tomography. We do. This is a test. We just use light. It's a depth finder, and we can measure everything in the eye. It works like an ultrasound. It just scans the eye. And this is the kind of things. This is a patient I saw, 30 years old. That lady here, 3 or 4 years before she started, she was working in the bank, completely functional, suddenly completely depressed. Completely depressed. She wanted to kill herself. She told her husband she was smart enough. I'm so depressed, I'm thinking of killing myself. And the husband has to stay home. She comes to me. She's seen at least 10 doctors in between. Sure enough, she has toxoplasmosis and Lyme disease, both together. And then she was completely incapacitated for 3 or 4 years. And nobody ever asked for an eye exam. Then, what I want to encourage, eye exam should be done, and it's already done on most people. See? Measured is strongly associated with increased level of C-reactive protein. That's also elevated in Alzheimer's disease. All inflammatory heart disease is a very good predictor if you're prone to have heart attack or stroke. And this explains why patients with depression have an increased future risk of cardiovascular. People are depressed very often after a heart attack or stroke. It's a very good predictor. The radiation depressive syndrome with C-reactive protein, again, many publication, growing evidence that links depression with inflammation. And a lot of the antidepressants are antibiotic or anti-inflammatory. Wellbutrin is a very good tumor necrotic factor inhibitor. Valproic acid is a fantastic antidepressant, but it kills toxoplasmosis in the brain when you just take it for antidepressant. A lot of the things that use antidepressant are antibiotics. And valproic acid is a fantastic example. That pill they were selling $1,000 a pill for toxoplasmosis? Valproic acid costs about $14 for 60 pills. Then, if you see somebody that is depressed, if they have a little memory problem, it's not a bad thing. If you have to choose an antidepressant, valproic acid or other antidepressants that have an anti-inflammatory effect on the brain. Microglia activation, schizophrenia, same thing. When people have schizophrenia, when suddenly you get a schizophrenic attack, like the young boy throwing furniture around and the young kid, those are schizophrenic attacks. When you treat them with antibiotics, just treating them, not doing a blood test, you have much decrease in the recurrence. But you should do blood tests, find out what's causing the inflammation, and treat it properly, because very often those infection comes back. They're not easy to clear completely. And you should be aware what's causing it and treating it. The risk of psychosis and related disorder of expression of subclinical syndrome of development of schizophrenia, no question. See, minocycline, in study, they showed that treating schizophrenia with minocycline was helping. And that, what's happening, Alzheimer's disease starts before you're born. Maternal immune activation can increase vulnerability of offspring to develop neuroimmune and behavioral problem. In response to state of puberty, offspring of an immune challenged mother stress-induced inflammation proceed in adult onset and behavior problem. Last night I was walking on the street, there's an old guy there asking for money. I can tell you, if you do testing on it, if you do examine his eye, his brain will be all inflamed. People in jail, their brain are inflamed. Those are when they're young, they're street people. They come and ask you for money. I feel sorry, but I give them money because I feel they're not well treated. But they say don't encourage them, but it's not their fault. It's our fault we don't treat them. And then this is the mother. If the mother is not healthy, doesn't have a good diet, is infected, the brain of the child doesn't develop well. And those children, they're very, very prone to develop mental disease later on. Neurodegeneration, good healthy mother, it's very important when you're pregnant, to have good teeth and that you got liver oil and things like that. If you're healthy, much more likely that your children won't finish in jail. In the magazine, The Economist, they say if you want bright, sociable children, you should take cut liver oil starting 3 months before you're pregnant. This is in The Economist. I was saying we have a tremendous amount of people in jail, and there's a simple thing you can do. If you want bright, sociable children, you should at least have good teeth before you get pregnant, and They cut liver oil because fish oil is extremely important for the development of the brain. But some people never eat fish in their life. They have a terrible diet. And then they have infection. They have Lyme disease, they have other things. Then it's very important, even when you plan to be pregnant, to make sure that you're in good health, because it could affect your child brain development. And if in The Economist, this is a business journal, they see if you take fish oil while you're pregnant, there's much less likelihood that your child will finish in jail. Isn't that amazing? Any young girl who wants to get pregnant, you better take your cut liver oil. Starting at least 3 months. You'll have bright, sociable children, especially if you have 2 in a row. And women sometimes feel very depressed after they give birth to a child. If you measure the fish oil in a woman's blood, when you're pregnant, when you deliver the baby, your fish oil is way, way down because the fish oil all goes in the brain of the baby. And if you get pregnant again, then very often you have severe depression because you're completely deficient in fish oil. Fish oil is a very good, the antidepressant, the best antidepressant, the most physiological is taking fish oil. And a lot of people don't eat fish. But then, you can eat other things that makes omega-3, but fish oil is the best. And then, this is, if you look, this is, during gestation what happened, then it affects the immune system of the child, and then it goes up to puberty, adulthood. This is not very well focused. Those slides, do you see them clearly? Yeah. No. Candy?
I don't think you're going to get it.
No? Okay. But anyway, see, when you look at the brain development, it goes up to adulthood. When you measure, when a child is young, it just looks at the periphery. When you start to read, you focus. That reading area, that's why the newspaper are little column. You don't see a newspaper all across. You would read any newspaper have little column because that's what you can read without scanning. You can go from one line to the other, and that's your field of vision. This keeps increasing in a child until they're 18 or 19 years old. Your brain adapts to have put more of the central vision, wider, and you can measure that very easily. And a lot of kids have problem reading because of that. They have to scan. But the width of the newspaper is very well studied. That's why it's done, because you can read and go down without moving your eyes. The others get tired if you go like that. The little tricks, that's when you see newspapers for good reasons written like that. Alzheimer's disease, in the general population, 10% enjoy about 65, and 40% about 85. It's a hell of a problem. It's a big, big problem. There's a lot of things you can do to slow that down. Most of all, age-related disease are neurodegenerative in nature, and a significant number of our patients eventually become affected with Alzheimer's disease. People that have macular disease are very prone to develop Alzheimer's disease. People have cortical cataract. Dr. says, I'll show you. They're very prone to develop Alzheimer's disease. People have type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, it's an inflammatory disease. And if you don't take good care of them, they're also very prone to develop dementia. Because all those things you can control. At the present time, they control the blood sugar in type 2 diabetes. You also have to control the inflammation. Yeah. A lot of people treat diabetes and never ask them about their teeth. If you have very high cholesterol, this young lady yesterday asked, my husband has cholesterol of 300. I said, what about a steroid? He has very bad teeth. If you have bad teeth, it makes your cholesterol goes up. Cholesterol kills bacteria in your blood. It's protecting you. You try to lower the cholesterol, but you also have to find the cause of the increased cholesterol. And then, I'm a little different. I think cholesterol is good. See, lack of effective treatment. Progress will be made in treatment of Alzheimer's disease if doctors start to investigate and treat patients when there's clear evidence of neurodegenerative process in the eye. We're often told there's no effective treatment for dementia. They say that all the time. Every fundraising, they say no treatment. That's not true. There is treatment for dementia. Start when your mother was pregnant. Then you have to have a test. Have a test that costs nothing, that's done on 50 million Americans over the age of 50. Eye doctor in the US examine 100 million patients, and 50 million of those are over 50. Then, it costs nothing because you go for glasses. Eye doctor sees 100 million people. All the other doctors together see 70 million. Because you go for your glasses. When people fail their driver's license test, for some magical reason, they find the money to get examined. The poorest person to the richest person gets examined. Just flunk your driver licenses. They don't go to ask for money. They find the money to have the eye exam. But 100 million people are examined, and 50 million are over 50. And if you look inside the eye, you can see early degeneration. It's a test. It's not invasive. It's not expensive. It's readily available. It's done on 50 million people. And you know, nobody takes advantage of it. That's why when you go to see an eye doctor, you say, doctor, I want an eye exam. I need new glasses. You have nice frame and everything. But at the end, I want to tell me, because the doctor doesn't tell you, because if he tells you, the patient gets scared, they think there's no treatment, and then they get all kinds of bad phone call. Why did you get my patient? This doctor, you're talking 10 years before the Alzheimer. And then they come back, they say, you don't have Alzheimer, why did you scare me? See, they misinterpret. You have to ask the doctor. They won't tell you. Because if you tell that, you won't have a practice. You have to see at the end, do I have any degenerative disease in my eye? If the doctor says yes, then you see somebody that's able to treat. But the test is done for free. It's nice to do other tests. They say screening is nice, but people don't go for screening too much, even with good insurance. But they go for eye exam. I can guarantee you that. See, the optometrist, this is the review optometry. Me, I'm an ophthalmologist, but I work with optometrists because optometrists are the one that sees the patient. In every little town, there's an optometrist. And when they look in your eye, they can tell you, and it's even in their magazine, Throwaway magazine, eye on neurodegenerative disease. See, this is when you look at the patient. See the little yellow dot in the back, those are drusen. But drusen are beta amyloid protein, the same thing as you see in the brain. You see them 20 years before. When you have little drusen like that in your brain, you're perfectly normal. It's when it gets very bad that you have a drusen. Those people keep good vision sometimes for 10, 15 years. Then they degenerate, they start to bleed. And they have two eyes. Then the way I learned, you see, when a patient starts to bleed in one eye, 22% lose the other eye in a year and 33% in 2 years. They're basically not able to drive. They cannot read. If you're a good doctor, when somebody starts to bleed in one eye, we know the cause why people are bleeding. You do blood tests and you treat them. But if they're shaking, their shaking improves. If they have irregular heart rate, if you have atrial fibrillation, it's a very good predictor of Alzheimer's disease too. They give you an anticoagulant, that's not the treatment. If your heart fibrillates because the heart is inflamed, you find what's causing the inflammation and you treat the inflammation. But when I treat their inflammation, but it has the same disease, then their fibrillation gets better many, many times, if it's not too far advanced. But today, if you have atrial fibrillation, the only thing they give you is a blood thinner. They don't try to find out, despite knowing that irregular heart rate is not, so it's not a good thing for dementia. It's chronic inflammation. You're sick. Now, see down below, that's what we call a cortical cataract. See, you can look, those patients have good vision, but they have cortical cataract. Cortical cataract is beta amyloid protein, the same thing as in the brain, in the lens. See, then see, this is the eye, this is the lens, the other and the maculas in the back. So this just to give you a little anatomy. I'm taking a picture. See, the lens, this is Lancet. This is people that works with me at Harvard University. We published that in 2003. No question that cortical cataract is Alzheimer's disease in the eye. No question. You know what? It was just published in Lancet. The American journal didn't want to publish it. They're not interested in that. It was published in a British journal. And now nobody read it. But even if they read it, if you have cortical cataract, your doctors have cortical cataract, you have chronic inflammation. By the time they have that, you've been having inflammation for quite a while. You better do something about it. And the most common cause that I see, people have bad teeth. I don't do, it's not what I do, it doesn't cost a lot of money. It's common sense. They're all different fish oil, they have no vitamin D. It's always a combination. But if you treat, me it's easy because I've been practicing for 40 years. When people bleed in one eye, I just try to prevent them from losing the other eye. And it's a very deadly disease too. A lot of people die. But if 33% lose their, when you have one eye going bad, it's not bad. You still have good sight vision with macular disease. But since when they lose their good eye, that's a big problem. And if you're a good doctor, you should. But today, in the practice of medicine, nobody does blood tests for macular disease. If you see somebody with macular disease bleeding in one eye, nobody does blood tests to try to prevent the disease from going in the good eye. They put needle in the eye, then if it doesn't go, they put needle in the other eye. At best, it doesn't work well. It doesn't treat the disease. They treat the eye, the patient. And this is the cortical cataracts. This is a drawing, that's a paper Harvard University, and the misfolded protein accumulates. Now this is amazing. This is what people are at Harvard University. Every cell in your body makes there's 100 million ribosomes, and each ribosome makes a million protein. Every cell in your body, in your brain, you make 1 million protein every minute. Imagine how many protein we make in the whole room in the next minute. 1 million per cell. Now, if the cells are well formed, they're well folded straight down, they're ready to work. But if you miss one amino acid, if it's not well made, then it doesn't fold properly, and then your body breaks it down. And when you make 1 million, you have to break about 600,000 if you're healthy, because they're not well formed. There's one amino acid. Don't forget, when you form that 1 million in a minute, all the good amino acids have to be in line. If one is missing, boom, it doesn't work. Then what happens? The proteasome breaks it down the individual amino acid, and the amino acid goes back up, and then they're synthesized again. But at best, it's not 50% efficient. Then it's a tremendous thing that you have to respect your own body. Think about it. You have to eat well. You have to be healthy. You have to make sure you don't have enough vitamin D. A lot of things helps that. A good balanced diet. I see people with terrible diet. Unbelievable. And your amino acids are not in line. Now you have to degrade 700,000, 800,000. And then what happened? They start accumulating in your legs. We do the molecular mechanics. This is to see, you're seeing in the eye what your body's doing 100 million protein a minute. Because the proteins, they're too misfolded, the body is not able to repair them. Then it accumulates non-functional protein, and that's what you see in the cortical cataract. The cortical cataract is protein that are not recycled. They're misfolded, and the body's not able to repair them fast enough. That's a very bad sign. It means you're probably not making 1 million a minute because you're not in good health, and you're making 900,000, you're breaking 800,000 because they've misformed. Then you're not able to repair fast enough. The protein accumulates everywhere in your body, not just in the eye, but we sit inside the eye way before. Then this is good. That was probably true. Nobody reads that. Nobody does anything about it. So this is aging. Aging, is when you start to accumulate misfolded protein. That's where you really fall apart. When you're not able to repair your protein that are misformed, then you get old. It accumulates, in Alzheimer's disease, it accumulates in the lens, it accumulates in the back of the eyes, the yellow dots. And we are all start to age very early. With lesions, constriction, peripheral field, thinning of the retinal activity goes way down. Us, we're so good with our instrument that we can put a contact lens and we flash a light 50 times per second, 103 spots around the fovea. And then, the one on the right is when you're 15 years old. The next one's when 25, 35, 45, 15, 65. This because every test we do, we put the age. We put you normal for your age. But this, we did in Germany, they made the computer believe the person was 15 years old. As you get older, everything goes down. Okay. Now, do you think a young lady or a young man of 25 years old is over the hill yet? You think so? You don't think so? You don't think so, right? Look at the Olympic. If you're 25 years old in the Olympic, forget it. You're too old. And that Chinese girl was 15, and the Olympic, they have a rule, she's supposed to be more than 16. And that girl was 15. The other one was 18. You're 18 years old, you're not as good as it. And we can measure that in the eye. If you want to train people for the Olympic, not everybody at 15 is good. A lot of people at 15 looks like 25. Because their mother and things and that, their brain was not well formed when they were born. Those are people finish in jail. If you don't have enough fish oil and you're pregnant, they're more aggressive. But if you want to train Olympic people, do the test. Take the one that have the best. Because don't waste time on the people that aren't able to see it. The eyes can put, the retinal cell process 50 times per second. It's amazing. The eye is amazing. But when you're 25, you're over. 55, 60, forget it. But 25, you're at your prime when you're 15. Your skin is thicker at 15. Your cornea is thicker at 16. At 15, 16. When you're 25, you can already measure that the cornea is getting thinner. Your skin getting thinner. Your bone's getting thinner, but at 15 years to prime. The human race used to live at 25, 30 years old. Now, millions of years ago, people were not living 50. They were all dead by 30. They were getting pregnant by 15, 16. We're a little bit better now, but postmortem neurologic exam, that's a nice thing. People get killed in a car accident, you look in the brain. Okay? 20% of people that die in their 20s, when you look in the brain, you already see beta amyloid protein. Those are the kids that the mother was not eating well, and they have all kinds of things, they have infection, and now they're 20 years old, they already have beta. They're not processing their protein, they're not making 1 million a minute. Okay? And 20% in 20. And see, it takes you until you're 70 to have 20% of the population with Alzheimer. Then it is a big lag. 20% of the people in their 20s are already signs of Alzheimer when they die in a car accident. We don't see it in the eye in their 20s, and we start to see it 55, 60. But then Alzheimer's about 85. And macular disease about 75 to 80. And we see, when you bleed in the eye, it's about 75 to 80. When we see the yellow, that's 55, 60, you start to see them. But if you look in a car accident, somebody die accidentally, you look, 20% have changed. It increased with age, but it's just to let you know, before those people eventually obviously will have more Alzheimer's disease. That they'll start to have Alzheimer's in the 70s. But again, having misfolded protein is a very common thing. And if you're not perfect, you start to accumulate that early. The pathological finding in the brain associated with Alzheimer's disease are similar to overlap with the finding in the eye. Cortical cataract, glaucoma, and drusen. Drusen are the little yellow spot. Those are beta amyloid protein in the eye. We can see it. Nothing better test, blood test not that good. You don't see it. Us, we see it. It's right there. Don't need a blood test. You just look at it. And you can measure it, see? Inclusion body mass index, when you get old, you start to lose the most common disease of muscle and get older. It's Alzheimer's disease of the muscle. The misfolded protein accumulates in your muscle. You start to lose muscle mass. That's why if you're slightly obese, if you're overweight and slightly obese, when you're over 60, you live longer than people normal weight. There's a lot of people normal weight, they're losing muscle mass. If you're over 60, you tend to lose muscle mass. Then if you start to go down to normal weight, in general, it's a big Canadian study. People that are over 60, if they're a little overweight or slightly obese, live longer than normal weight. Because your muscle degenerate, the most common disease of the muscle. Everybody's telling you to lose weight. Why did they tell you that? Many studies have been done. The biggest one was the Canadian study. Now you like it, now you don't have to. See, I'm not saying if you're 20 years old, but I'm saying if you're over 60, if you start to lose muscle strength as you get older. So me coming up, I'm 76 years old, I lost my balance. See, my muscle is not as strong as like you open a jar, I have much more problem opening. Before I just boom. Now I can hardly open them. As you get older, you lose your muscle strength, everybody. But if you take good care of yourself, you don't lose it. By 100, we're all dead. Then, doctors, what we do, we prevent you from dying in the 70s. But don't worry, when my patient get upset at me, they're 90, 95, now they get sick. And I say, I'm not God, I cannot prevent you from dying. If you're 90, you die very fast after that. The mortality rate goes way up. And doctors, what we do, we put this 50, 60 years old, little decrease of mortality, but it has to increase. But by 100, we're all dead, statistically. Then, not some people, but per 100, we're all dead. See, the lens said this is the thing we publish, and this is the lens. Now, see, this is when you look at the eye. From the front, you look at the eye. This is, just take a picture of the eye. So when a doctor's dilating your eyes, that's what he sees, okay? Now, if you, I put the lights on in the room to show you what I'm looking. Now, if you turn the lights off, this is the Harvard University. The study was on people that die with Alzheimer's disease. And then they had the control. People that die with Alzheimer's disease, the beta amyloid are the same concentration in the brain and in the eye. If you don't have Alzheimer's disease, you have a little bit in the eye and a little bit in the spinal fluid in the brain. If you have Alzheimer's disease, it matches exactly. Not everybody has the same amount, plus or minus 5%. What you see inside the eye, it's in the brain, plus or minus 5%. And this is people that die with Alzheimer's disease compared to people that die without Alzheimer's disease of the same age. Even if you get older, everybody gets older a little bit, but is a strong, strong correlation with cortical cataract. When you see a cataract, you should jump and ask your doctor. See, now if you look, you turn the lights off, okay, this is a slit lamp. Just a photo. Every doctor that you go for an eye exam has a slit lamp. Just putting a sun ray in the room to look at the dust in the room. We have a little slit of light. We turn all the light off, and the little slit of light shows us the things that are floating around in the eye. See, there's a camera, but you don't need a camera. See, and then this is going back. Then, now if you turn the lights off, this is what you see. Now on the top, you see misfolded protein. There's a little thing down below now. Okay? Now when you look, this is the cornea is out of focus, because I'm focusing now on the front of the lens. This is the front of the lens, and then in between, it doesn't mean, I have the arrow, but it doesn't go on the screen. See, in between, this is what we call the cortex, and then the nucleus, the solid part of the lens. You can see that. Any doctor can look and see that. With any eye doctor in the country, in Bermuda, every eye doctor has a slit. Now, if you look, you look around, you see the way you look, you see the smoke coming this way. Go this way. Now I turn the lights. It's just a red reflex. When somebody sometimes take a picture of you, you have red eyes. The system to remove the red eye. The red eye is because you have reflection of the blood in the back, and you see it. Just put a light, or put a little beam of light, and then you take a picture. And you see all kinds of things where the protein is misfolded and accumulated. This is beta amyloid protein. You don't need a brain biopsy. You don't need an MRI. You don't need expensive stuff. And those MRI for looking at them they cause a lot of problems because they cause an immune reaction. They're expensive and they're invasive. You don't need that. Let's look in the eye. And the resolution we have is 1,000 times better than any MRI. MRI, you look, you eyeball it. You don't. Us, we measure everything. And when you measure 3 times, you get the same number. It's extremely accurate light. See, then if you look down below here, see down below, so you see little fibro. See, now I put the light down below, you have to look around, and you see fibro. And then you see this is thick cortex, and the fibro of aggregated. It forms fibro, same thing as in the brain. See, and then this is the cataract. Then it forms a little cloud. Okay? At Harvard University, we have an instrument to measure molecules. See, this is what you see in the eye, and that's what you see in the brain when you're right. You don't have to do a brain biopsy. Some people were doing brain biopsy diagnosed Alzheimer's. That. They didn't look in the eye. All the research in the U.S., they just spend another $1 billion on a drug test. They never look at the eye. Never. Why? I don't know. First of all, we say in Boston, I see people in study. Very often people don't have us. They have B12 deficiency. They have other things. If you have severe B12 deficiency, you can have that. There's many other diseases that affects your memory. And I see people that have no cataract and no drusen, and they're on a big treatment for Alzheimer's disease. They don't look in the eye. They just ask people, with memory, a lot of things affect your memory. But, they never look at the eye. This has to stop. That's why, but nobody listens to me. I've been saying that for 20 years. Nobody listens to me. I'm glad. No, that's why that's the first time I talk to public. I've always talked to doctor. Doctor, forget it. It's a waste of time. Don't change. But the public, you can go and ask your doctor, do I have evidence? No. And if doctor doesn't know you, they have to read. Tell them to invite me, I'll be very glad. See? Then the drusen, that's the little yellow spot in the back that you see. That's beta amyloid protein. And that, if you don't treat that, they finish with macular degeneration. They lose the driving vision, the riding vision. And you have that for about 10 years before your vision goes down. But if you're very sick, though, it goes much faster. And some people, you do blood tests, they're terrible. Serotonin protein very high, homocysteine very high, that bad teeth, they don't have vitamin D. If you have all of that, you'll lose your vision pretty fast, and you'll lose the other eye pretty fast. But if you're in good health, and if you lose one eye, you start to bleed, and if you get good treatment, it won't go in the other eye. And you can compare that. And the son of Dr. Lewis did that one year, reviewing my tests, how many. It's easy because in all the study, 22% lose their good eye in a year, 30%. Me, I had like 2 or 3% in 2 or 3 years because I treat them. I'm the only one that does blood tests. Eye doctors don't do blood tests in general. Perhaps in Bermuda, I don't know, but in general, eye doctors don't do blood tests. No, they do. Nobody does blood testing. See, now you talk about they keep doing study. Our tax money pay for doing study. Mortality in cataract, finding population data, cataract survival, age-related cataract survival, mixed lens cataract. Those are all studied. Vision impairment predict 5 years mortality. Study after study. Those people should be arrested. They spend our tax money to keep doing study because people like to do study. And there's always 2 or 3 studies going on trying to prove that cataract is a good predictor of mortality. But nobody does anything about it. See? You have to do something about it. I have at least 100 studies. Degenerative eye disease are deadly and are a good predictor of Alzheimer's disease. Any cataract has been found in different studies to be independent predictor of increased mortality and also predictor of Alzheimer's disease. Please stop doing study. Do something about finding the problem associated with eye disease that caused a significant decline. Why not 1 million protein a minute? If you don't make 1 million protein a minute, you're in trouble. That's what you should worry about. You see misfolded protein in the eye, you're not processing your protein properly. And it starts with a lot of factors involved in that. Now, this is just people have poor vision. Big study again. If you have poor vision, you die much faster. See, almost 35%. That was a 9-year study. If you just take population in the U.S. and check their vision, and you follow them for 9 years. So if people have bad vision, both eyes, 35% are dead in 9 years. If you have good vision, about 5, 6, 7% dead. And if you have bad vision in both eyes, you're sick. Then see your doctor. I have vision in both eyes. I have inflammation. Age-related disease, associated mortality. If the doctors give you a vitamin because he says you have macular disease, you should take the arid formula. When a doctor does that, in 6 years, see, ocular disorder, particular cataract, maybe macro system, but the age-related study, you see, here, the visual acuity impact worse than 2040 had increased 36%. In that study, it was people with drusen that would yellow that they were giving vitamin. If the vision in one eye was less than 2040, mortality was increased by 36%. And the decrease in survival in the participant with AMD cataract subjective condition may reflect systemic rather than local. Because if you have a cataract and they were following the back of the eye, but they were checking for cataracts. The people had cataract that a 36% increase in mortality. Then obviously, and this is all the different graphs showing if you have cataract removed in both eyes and you have drusen, the mortality is increased by 53%. Then having cataract is not something I have my cataract, I see better. No. You have cataract, you better see your doctor. Say I have cataract, I most likely have a misfolded protein. I want to find out what's wrong with me. I'm a little revolutionary, do you think so? I go around right now they don't do anything. They take a vitamin, they do nothing. It's not a blood test, nothing. They don't tell you about, the 11% mortality, if somebody gives you, says take vitamins because you have drusen in the back of the eye. If they tell you that, 11% are dead in 6 years. And we know the factor why people die. It's not a miracle. They have inflammation. You do blood tests, they have inflammation. You find the cause and you treat it. But if you have drusen in the back, you already have a start of Alzheimer's. But if you have cataract with it, then you have a double whammy. You have a cataract in the back. Then it's not a good sign. Taking the vitamin makes no difference, basically. You take vitamin, but you see, people didn't take vitamin. The one on the right was the difference between people taking vitamin and no vitamin. Vitamin can be a big problem if you have problem with your memory, because it makes memory worse. In all the study, when you try to stop inflammation, somebody that early Alzheimer, you make them worse. And I understand, but they give prednisone one time, 20, 25 years ago. It was so bad, they never published it. When bad study comes out, they don't publish it. Right. But me, I was there to see it. Some people were treating Alzheimer's with prednisone, disaster. And when you give antioxidant, people would have early Alzheimer's, you make them worse. And not just that, if you do exercise and muscle mass, if you take antioxidant, you don't increase your muscle mass. Because antioxidant, to build muscle mass, you need inflammation in your muscle to build muscle. A big guy that big muscle, they take arachidonic acid. Arachidonic acid, that's what causes inflammation. They take that by the big bottle. Now, they have big muscle like that. They have inflammation. But it makes your muscle grow like crazy. But if you have Alzheimer's, if you have problem with your muscle getting old with neurodegenerative disease, then it's important to control that. Now, this is the drusen. Just to see now what's the most professional and primary care physicians are not aware of this. That eye disease activity. I'm often told that you should not tell the patient and the public in general because this will make them nervous. Do we have the same philosophy about breast cancer, cholesterol? Should the public be informed about the importance of routine eye examination to take early sign of neurodegenerative disease? They should put that on the TV. They should advertise that. If you want to decrease problem, ask your doctor. And it's done on 50, it costs nothing. Do you have anything in medicine costs nothing done on 50 million people? It costs nothing. Just asking your doctor. But see, this is the Pentagon. I'll show you. We have a lot of toys, eye doctor. We're lucky. We can measure things. We can measure if you're old at 25 very well. Pentacam, measure the eye. It does 50 pictures of the eye, okay? And that, it does 184,000 measurements in less than 1 second. Light is fast. In case you don't know, light is very fast. It goes 7 times around the earth in 1 second. Then, during 1 second, you can measure 184,000 measurements of the cataract. This is nice if you do a study. If you do a study and you want to know if your treatment works, you can measure it extremely accurately. And it's repeatable. You can repeat it. But it's just looking at little light, not a bright light, not brighter than when you walk on the street on a sunny day here. And 1 second, boom, that's it. It's not, what we do, it doesn't hurt anybody. And then this is somebody, you can detect the cataract before you see the cataract. See, because the proteins start to accumulate, but they're a little too much, but the body barely is keeping up. When you do that here, the NIDEC here, it does, it causes coma aberration. When the lens starts to swell, when you accumulate protein, the lens starts to swell. It's not opaque yet, but it starts to swell. If you want very early Alzheimer, do that thing. That thing in less than half a second does 1,400 measurements. And it measures look at that. We have number, you never believe it. And the computer compares them. The nice thing, you don't have to look at the result too much. You look when they come back and you compare. Computers are so good, they compare everything, makes graph, first visit, second visit, everything is graph. Then you just look at the graph. They put a little line and then you know if it's worse by the line. You don't have to look at all the number, but the number are there. But it's amazing amount of number, but the computer are good. We're lucky to have good computer. Then, what you see here, it causes coma aberrations. We can measure if the aberration is caused by, just the cornea, just myopic, but if they are spherical. When it's in the lens, very, very rarely you start to see coma aberration. When you see coma aberration, those people are prone to develop cortical cataracts. And if you want, I think everybody should have those tests. It just takes 1 second, boom. But if you start to see coma aberration and you go 6 months after it's worse, you better believe it, you have a problem. Start to find out now. See, this is all good. Eye doctor is amazing. I feel sorry for other doctors. They look at you and they say, oh, you feel good, and they just look at you. Us, we measure everything extremely accurately. See, this is instrument allow us to measure optical aberration that are normally detected years before you see the cataract. Various types. And obviously, if you do an Alzheimer's disease study, you should measure the lens. Because if your treatment works, it won't get worse. Okay? But they don't do that. They never look at the eye. I cannot make people change. Various type of cataract produce very different type of aberrations. They're different. The cortical cataract is the worst. That's the beta amyloid protein. It's very different because of coma aberration like that. Very different. And Alzheimer's disease patients where abnormal misfolded protein accumulates in the lens. You can see it before you see it with our instrument. Now, this is a cortical cataract. When they have a cortical cataracts, this is the beta amyloid protein accumulating in the lens. Most of the time, it's mostly down below. Then you see, we have instrument and this instrument to measure molecule in water. You probably have 10 of them in Bermuda. It's the most sold instrument. Every city continuously monitor the water in case somebody put poison in it. Then they come in here like 10,000 different molecules, and you put laser and you monitor the water. It's the instrument made in New Hampshire. It's sold all over the world. Every city has that. It costs about $10,000. It continuously monitor your water. That's why people will have trouble poisoning you. The minute they put poison, boom, big light goes up and siren goes up. And those are instruments. You can use that to measure the eye. The eye is transparent. Then you can measure beta amyloid protein by using quasi-elastic property of the light. You know it's beta amyloid protein. You know the molecule. You can measure blood sugar. You can measure everything in the eye using that. But then, it would be good to use mitigation. If somebody still take too much mitigation in the brain, you could use that. But this is, plaque that form in the brain also appear in the eye, providing an easy way to detect Alzheimer's disease. And that Dr. Goldstein that did the thing at Harvard with the cortical cataract. But nobody, audition 2003, nobody did anything about it. That's why I'm trying to preach the revival, the thing. The tau protein, that's another thing that accumulates in the brain. The tau microtubule protein, a neuronal microtubule under physiological condition. In Alzheimer's disease, the tau protein undergoes phosphorylation. And a squirrel that hibernates does that. It's reversible. In animals, when you hibernate, a quarter of the food that you eat, 25% of the energy of the food you eat is burned in your brain. The brains burn 25% of the energy. It's very, very active. When an animal hibernate, they have Alzheimer's disease. They phosphorylate their tau protein, the brain energy goes down 80%, then they can survive the winter not eating. But it just shows you it's in nature already, but when it happens in your brain, if your brain has a problem with energy, it tries to hibernate. That's like a squirrel. Squirrels do that very well. Every year they hibernate, but human, when you energy in the brain is not good. That's why diabetics very often don't have enough. If hypoglycemia, that's the worst thing for Alzheimer's disease. The brain doesn't have enough energy. And a way for the brain to slow down the use of energy is to phosphorylate the tau protein. And people say, it is reversible. And this is the amyloid that accumulates outside the tau protein accumulated inside the cells. And then we have a good camera to measure that. We have camera for everything. And this is measured at microtubules. We have, CGI is highly specialized, proven identity, structural change in the microtubule. Okay, now, just to give you, microtubule, there's 1 million to 1.5 million axon in the nerve fiber layer, from the eye going to the brain. 1 million to 1.5 million axon. In each axon, there's thousands of microtubule. And the microtubule, that's what brings the food to the end of the nerve and it comes back. It's very, very active. There's so many of them that they polarize the light. Then, see, we can measure the thickness using ultrasound, and we can measure the microtubule in the nerve fiber layer by using polarization. This measures the microtubule, and then we have the other thing, the OCT, that measured the nerve fiber layer extremely well. Then there's two things again, that if you want to do research, you don't need that though. Everything I'm talking about there, this is for research. You just need an eye doctor to look at your eyes and he will tell you if you have early degeneration. Then go to your doctor. But if you want to do research and just to tell you what we can see, we all have those instruments. They're amazing, amazing. I get surprised every day. Now with the new instrument, we can see the finest capillary in your eyes, the same thing in the brain. And as you get older, the capillary are farther apart. We can see the blood moving in the capillaries. Using an instrument that is just a little bright light, that's all. We don't have any injection, nothing. And then just, the tau protein, that's what stabilizes the microtubule. And xanthine, lutein, those are all things that stabilize the microtubule. That's why you have a lot in the macular area. Those are things that you need in your diet to stabilize your tau protein. Zeaxanthin and lutein are important. The yellow of an egg is full of lutein. Eat eggs is good for you. Omega-3 eggs, eat them, it's good. The yellow of an egg is the best. When you put lutein in a pill, they take the yellow of the egg, they extract the lutein with acetone, they remove the acetone by evaporating, and they put that in a pill, they put that in a drugstore, and a year after you eat the pill. And you know what happened? When you take that, the lutein hardly goes up in your blood. But when you need an egg, nice fresh egg, it's enjoyable, it goes way up. And people tell you eggs is bad for you, they're wrong. If you're over 70, fat is good for you. Eat fat. Front page of New York Times. Eat fat is good for you. People think fat is bad, I can tell you. Fat kills bacteria in the blood. Cholesterol kills bacteria. Then some people don't know that. This is phosphorylation of tau protein. And we can measure that extremely well, the thickness and the microtubule. And lutein is like tau protein stable and microtubule. It's not a bad thing to eat eggs. The choline is a lot in normal foods. But the lutein is mostly the yellow of an egg. The yellow of an egg is yellow because there's a lot of lutein in zeaxanthin. Very good source. And eating an egg 3 or 4 times a week is not bad. Then we can use spectroscopy, resonance spectroscopy too. If you want to measure lutein in the eye, we can measure that because it forms, we call that, it reflects the light, different molecules, and we can Raman spectroscopy. You can measure very well. When you throw light on a molecule, it shakes. And you can measure it very well. And that's an instrument, more or less like the other one we used. The other one we measure 1 point. This thing measured the whole thing. But using those instruments, you can measure all kinds of molecules in the eye without any blood test. A normal VR. That's another thing. When people start you just flash a light. Okay. When you flash a light, it goes to the retina. Then it goes to bipolar ganglion cell, then it goes to the lateral ganglion, and then the back of your brain. You just put a little thing in the back of the brain. It's like a electrocardiogram, same thing. And you flash a light and you measure the impulse. Nothing simpler. Everything I do, I don't kill patient, I can tell you. See, if you look at the letter in the middle, see, you don't. If you look at the cross, you don't like it because every time I move that cross, your brain makes a big wave. Okay. If you look at that, if you look at the cross and you change black and white, within 100 milliseconds after, you can measure a big impulse on the brain. But when people have Alzheimer's disease, this one was like 10 per second. If you increase it or slow, it's like if you swing on a swing. If you don't swing, pull at a good time, you won't go anywhere. So you have to see us when the wave goes up. See, then we give a swing again. And this one was made at 13 cycles per second. 13 times you flash the light. And this is a normal healthy person. Okay, people have early Alzheimer, they're all flat. I mean, the eyes work, but it doesn't work 13 per second. It works 15 to 16. A normal healthy person, 13 per second, they're a beautiful way. But if you look down below Alzheimer, they go completely flat. And when you treat them, it improves. This is putting a little thing that they check your heart on the back of your head and flashing a light in front of you. The problem we don't do that test, you know what? They don't reimburse it. They give you like $35 to do that, to keep the lab open, the space, and the technician. It costs us at least $80. Then we had to close the lab because it's not reimbursed. But you don't really need it. It's good for research. But if you see somebody, it's so easy. Somebody thinks there's a problem. Many other things affect the brain. And doing a response like that discover a lot of stuff. People complain, had a lady, she had seen 5 doctors. She was crying. I looked at her, I said, your eyes are perfect, man. You have 20/20 vision. And my nurse says, why don't you do an OCT on a visual evoked response? I do it completely flat. She had seen 5 other doctors. I was almost letting her go. And the lady starts crying. My nurse says, why the hell don't you do the test? I do the test. She was too young, completely flat. She had Lyme disease. It's a simple test, a little thing on the back of the head. But it's not reimbursed. See, the government doesn't think we need to do that. I think you need to do that, but you have to keep the lab open. You do tests, you have the personnel, you have to have the space. But we have a little, see the visual perimetry system. You can do that, and then you can check on the brain, and you can do a very good perimetry. You can see the vision. You can measure the vision of somebody, give a pretty good idea the way their brain is responding to checkerboard, big complicated checkerboard. You can guess the vision pretty well. If somebody is not able to read or whatever, you can flash the light. It's very good. Somebody say, "I'm all done." Okay. No. I guess I'm all done. Basically, I have all kinds of things. See, this is proving to you the same thing. And neurodegeneration, it's all in the eye. See? And you see the nerve over it, get infected. But anyway, thank you very much. If you have questions later on, ask questions.
As you can see, Dr. Trempe comes with a wealth of experience and information. Endless, isn't it? It's like drinking water from a fire hydrant. So much to take in all at once. It's truly amazing. It's not like what he's saying is not interesting. It's really mind blowing, and we're very delighted. Now the next session will be Q&A with Dr. Trempe. So some of what he didn't cover here, he may get a chance to do it during the Q&A sessions. time is of the essence. We have about 30 minutes, actually, for this session. So we're going to ask you if you could make your questions as brief as possible. We're going to limit it to one question per person so that we can get as many people as possible to ask their questions. And we will do it in the order they came. We have some microphones going around. So if you raise your hand, okay, if you raise your hand, then they will hand you a mic and the floor will be yours.
Right.
So we have a lady at the back there.
Yes, I have a question for Dr. Trempe. What are you seeing in eyes that look at computer screens? Are you seeing a degeneration, a quicker degeneration?
You could eventually, people looking at their little cell phone all the time. People looking at their cell phone all the time. You know, when you look at Chinese, if you look at too much at close range, and you see young kids, they're looking like that. The eye adjusts to where you're looking, and it gets longer. If you do a lot of close work, you will get more myopic. And I see kids, you know, you see, because the kids see very well at near, so they can read the thing right in front of their eyes. If you do that too much, it's not. You will be more myopic. And they have a big problem in China. There are a lot of myopia in China. All the kids are quite myopic. It's a problem. See, when kids play outside, they look far away. When they play with their phone, people are allowed to put. Me, when I was a kid, I was in a small town in Canada. I was always outside. My mother put me outside in the morning, and that was it. You know, you came back for lunch and come back for dinner. It was not dangerous. Nobody kidnapped you in that small town in Canada. You know, kids were playing outside. My mother didn't want us inside the house. Even in the winter, she dressed us well. But now people keep their kids inside the house, and they play with their phone all the time. It's a problem.
Next question.
But it doesn't cause Alzheimer's disease.
Okay, the next person with the microphone. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. In reference to, you're saying the doctor to test your eyes for the cataracts. If we have a doctor here on the island that does testing for cataracts, can he test also for the old timers as well?
What?
Right. So
yes, any eye exam. When you go to any simple eye exam, you can ask the doctor, do I have any evidence of early neurodegenerative change? Do I have early little yellow spot? Do I have a little early cataract? Those cataracts, the people still have good vision. They don't interfere with the vision. When the pupil is small, they're not in the middle.
So
but if somebody tells you have early cataract, you know, it's not a good sign.
So if you do have the cataract and you're going to the eye doctor for the cataract and you say to him or her, can you detect anything else in my eye? They will be able to tell you?
Yeah, you look for the yellow spot in the back.
The yellow spot in the back.
In the back, but you know, if your cataract were bad enough to be removed in both eyes in the ARED study, that was 8,000 people, prospective study. That was one of the best studies, where you take a big bunch of people, you don't look after the fact, you look prospectively. You know, people that have cataract removed in both eyes in that study had a 53% increase in mortality compared to people that didn't have the cataract removed. But then, you know, when you have a cataract, you know, it's not an eye disease. You saw all the publication. When you have cataract, you have increased mortality. There's at least 100 studies on that.
So let me add to Dr. Trempe's answer. Yesterday, we visited one of your local optometry offices and was extremely impressed with the doctor there. She can do all these tests. Yeah. She has all the key pieces of equipment. And Dr. Cousins will be coordinating eye tests for those that are interested. I mean, you can go to your eye doctor, but the problem is what Dr. Trempe talked about. It's the interplay between the eye doctor who is not treating the systemic disease, and they won't know where to go. So Dr. Cousins is going to be the quarterback to coordinate all this on the island. So the point is, yes, the eye tests are available on your beautiful island, and Dr. Cousins will be your champion to coordinate this. So if you go in a vacuum to the eye doctor, you may not get the results and the feedback that you're looking for. So you really need to have a practitioner that understands everything that Dr. Trempe is talking about, but from an eye perspective, but also from a health perspective.
And if you already had your cataract removed, you know, then you go to your doctor and see, they should check you for inflammation. A blood test, a white blood count, complete blood count, a C-reactive protein, homocysteine. There's a lot of simple tests you can do. And you look at the result. People that have not everybody is dead, but 55% increase in mortality. Yes.
The next talk I'll be covering sort of the formula for the process of going through and getting evaluated.
Lady right here.
Yes, we'll take the question.
That
Okay, so just hang on. Another mic is coming to you. Maybe if you stand, up, it would be.
Is it? Okay,
No.
so
Okay,
you're saying that inflammation basically is the bottom line culprit.
No.
Okay.
No,
So that's
I didn't
that's
say
where
that.
I wasn't sure. And if inflammation is found, let's say, because you just mentioned about inflammation, how does the doctor treat that, or how do you treat that, or?
No, inflammation is a treasure of nature. It's a treasure. You know, if you have bad gum disease, if you don't have inflammation, the bacteria will go in your blood, will kill you very fast. You'll have septicemia. Then inflammation is a treasure of nature to protect you. Like increasing cholesterol protects you. I can make your cholesterol goes way up. If I inject dead bacteria in your blood, your cholesterol go way up. You'll stop burning cholesterol in your body because you want a lot of cholesterol in your blood. The endothelial lipase breaks the good cholesterol, the high-density lipoprotein, a little pocket full of cholesterol. It breaks them to release cholesterol in the blood. You stop excreting cholesterol in the bile. When you have an infection, your body wants to increase the cholesterol. Then if you have high cholesterol, the first thing you do, you find out, the first common question I see, they have bad teeth. They have terrible teeth. And everybody says they have good teeth, and see how many teeth have lost in the last 5 years. They lost 4 or 5. I mean, then you have gum disease. But inflammation is not the problem. Every time you stop inflammation, you make things worse. And you know, when you give inflammation antioxidant to old people, they die faster.
So to add to that answer, I'll be talking about that a little bit more. But so there's a baseline screening test that Dr. Cousins will be affecting, and it gives us clues as to what's going on. And when your inflammation goes up, it's your immune system reacting to something. And there's a number of paths that she'll be going through to figure out exactly what it is to treat it. But Dr. Trempe just said, bad teeth, it's periodontal infection. I mean, women with periodontal disease have more miscarriages and premature births. I mean, this is a systemic issue. So that's just one of many types of things that elevate inflammation.
But sometimes it's complicated. I had a student last year. She was sick like crazy. She was a student in our school. Young lady, sick. I did all kinds of blood tests. I could not find out what was wrong with her. She had a lot of inflammation. Then I asked her, did you travel? And I was in the Dominican Republic. Did you get a tick bite? Oh, yes, she had dengue fever. Okay, but in Boston, it's not a test you do too often. But the fact that she told me she was in Dominican Republic and she went hiking and she said I had that red, tick on me, and she had dengue fever. But it's not a. Sometimes it's tough. But if you give prednisone to somebody like that, you don't make them better. And she had all kinds of inflammation in her brain, all kinds of things. People, rickettsial disease is not rare at all. Rocky Mountain spotted fever, rickettsial fever. Rats, flee from rats. But you start a certain thing, but if you don't find, then you do other things. But I can tell you, if you keep having inflammation, you bleed in one eye, and I'm not able to find out, you'll bleed in the other eye. And then we try harder. Eye doctor try hard because we want people to keep good vision.
Next question over here. Right here.
Oh.
There's a lady in the back.
Where?
Dr. Trempe.
Stand up, lady.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. We've learned that the amyloid plaques in the brain, the tangles, the precursor to developing dementia/Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if we know how those plaques begin in the brain and then we develop dementia, Alzheimer's, but I'm thinking there is a little pill that I heard a doctor say years ago. If it were discovered today, it would be under prescription. And that little pill is aspirin. Would taking aspirin, maybe after you go 50, the baby aspirin, might that help in, how can I put it, not getting all of those tangles in the brain?
No, see, aspirin, people with Alzheimer's disease very often have microhemorrhage in the brain. and aspirin tends to make them worse. You can do an MRI for that because it leaves little iron. But again, it's trying to treat the inflammation. It's always wrong. You don't treat the inflammation. You try to find the cause. And look, if you give prednisone, the best example, I was at, when they did that, it was 20, 30 years ago. And I was seeing the patient. They were coming back on wheelchair and all kinds of things. They then, taking an aspirin, as you only take an aspirin if your doctor tells you, and then you do a D-dimer. So if you're healthy, if you sit for a while, you form blood clot in your legs. Then the body breaks them and your D-dimer goes up. If your D-dimer is up, it means you're forming too many protein because your vessels are inflamed. If the vessels wall inflamed and bleeding, and then bleeding and clotting is the same disease. If the vessel wall is sick, it tends to clot on the inside, but it gets thinner and it tends to break. Then it's a two-way street. When you form a blood clot, you have sick vessel wall. Then you have to find the cause. And me, I'm not too much in favor of anticoagulant. I know they give that a lot, but I see people with cerebral hemorrhage. Then I am not, don't do and take aspirin. No, everything I told you today, don't go and do it. You should ask your doctor. But you never tell a bunch of people take aspirin. This is a big mistake. An aspirin is something, it's a powerful drug and something given by your doctor for a very good reason that he's giving you. And I hope he's measuring your D-dimer, and you keep it as long as you have a lot of D-dimer in your blood. But then when you treat the inflammation, it goes down.
But one more question.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is your next session. So we have 18 minutes.
All right.
I'll give you, make it very quick.
Half a minute.
Okay.
Listen, we know Alzheimer's is common in the western part of the world. Is there any community that you have studied where the older people don't get Alzheimer's?
This is a very interesting question, because the apolipoprotein, people say it causes Alzheimer's disease. You have to live long. It's protecting much more in women than men. But if you have macular disease, it protects you. And if you're living in a country where there's a lot of parasite in the water and things like that, the ApoE4 protects you. Then, I think what's happening with all those risk factors for Alzheimer's disease is the people that are sick, my patient, they die. But I think if they have E4 protein, it makes them survive longer. Then when they're old, you see, the ApoE4 caused the disease. See me, I know the whole world's against me, but I think I'm right. Because people that have macular disease, if they ApoE4, it protects their eyes, and people that live in country where there's a lot of parasites, some Central Africa and things like where they drink water from the river. If you have ApoE4, you live longer. Then if you check those people because they live longer, then they have a lot of ApoE4. Then they say ApoE4 caused the Alzheimer because they live long enough to develop Alzheimer. But there's a fantastic amount of money spent to try to stop E4. But it protects the eye. When I see that, I type in, gee, at least it protects your eyes. And I think it protects your brain, but I could be wrong, but I like discussion. I like to be different.
Am I allowed to?
Oh, yes.
So the National Geographic magazine in 2013 did a major study, 6-year study, looking for areas where they had centenarians. And they were looking for a genetic, just to Dr. Trempe's point, they were looking for the genetic component to it. And they came back and they basically said, well, it wasn't the genes. They said it was luck. The reason why these people were living long, but it's very clear in Italy, the Mediterranean diet, it's really reflective of how you comport yourself for all your generations. And so it's passed on not through your genes, but through your behavior. And the other thing I think is really important, especially for seniors, because we have a health ministry at our church, and the assistant pastors in charge of the small groups said, well, do I want to live to 100? So what this National Geographic study showed is that if you live to 80, you have 19 years of declining health, okay? And it's not like a straight line. It slopes up like this. You have 19 years of declining health.
You have to die one day.
If you live to 100, you have 9 years of declining health. These people aren't getting Alzheimer's. They're dying of cardiovascular. They're dying much more quickly. So if you comport yourself well and live longer, not only will you live longer, but you'll have much more of a healthy life. if you live 20 years longer, you'll have 25 years of extra good health. So I think the answer is, and I'm going to try to dispel the myth that Alzheimer's is a separate disease. It's diabetes, it's cardiovascular, it's all these diseases connected to cause this disease. So if you're free of that disease, you will live longer, and you will live longer free of Alzheimer's disease. So that's what we're really finding.
The other thing to add to that, me all my life, I ask the patient, do you have a twin? 1 out of 70 has a twin. When they have a twin, I says, bring him, we won't charge you, we'll examine him. When you examine the twin, macular disease doesn't match, Alzheimer's disease doesn't match. Having blue eyes and blonde hair makes you very prone to have skin cancer. But that's not what's the cause. Association, all the gene is association. Blue eyes and blonde hair, if you're very well pigmented, you don't get skin cancer. But it's not the pigmentation in your skin, it's the ultraviolet light that causes the cancer. Then the genetic study tend to be the best way to do that. And a lot of people hate me for that. I say, why do you do that? Twin don't match. Twin are identical. Identical twin. I've done that all my life. And all those diseases, we spend millions and millions of dollars doing genetic study. Now they're paying $2,000 to do gene. They don't match. But I can tell you, if you're blonde hair and blue eyes, you're very, very prone to have skin cancer, no question. Then that's what all the genetic study always think about that.
So the treatment then is to dye your hair and change and put a.
No, you don't go in the sun as much, and you put skin.
That's
the
absurdity of genetics. Is
you don't go.
It doesn't tell you how to treat.
Lifeguard on the beach is not good for a blonde person.
Question at the back. Yes. Hi. 2 quick questions. Sorry, this is just combined in one. I'm not trying to make this long. The MOCA test, for many people who are familiar with individuals who are given early diagnosis or early detection, MOCA, I believe it stands for Montreal Cognitive Assessment. Can you speak to that in light of just your views or your comments with regards to that test? The other tied question is relating to a lot of what you're sharing has huge implications for public policy in health and lifestyle, and I was wondering if you could probably speak to that briefly as well.
Me, in general, people don't like too much when you start to memory tests. I have so much time to spend, and I see the disease in the eye. Then I'm much more interested to try to change our lifestyle and everything else. But that's, when I look at it, memory tests are not bad, but you know what? Ask the wife, they tell you, oh, he has terrible memory. If you drive your car, that's called phantom memory. When you drive your car on, when you drive me, you know all the street. If you drive your car and suddenly you don't know where you are, you're going from work to a place where you go shopping and then you don't know where you are. You have a big problem. That's a big memory test. You just ask people. I ask the wife usually,
my
you think it's a memory problem. Then people don't like the memory test. And me, don't forget, I see people way before, and I know they have inflammation, and I'm trying to find the cause. Then I don't see that many that comes to me just because they have early Alzheimer. What I'm saying in the whole lecture is that we can detect early neurodegenerative change very cheaply by just using the eye doctor and see what they find.
My comment on all those memory tests is they're more for the patient, for the doctor, because they don't tell you what to do. They tell you nothing. So it's like, I think everybody should be baseline what Dr. Cousin's talking about, just so we have something to show to you. But it doesn't tell the doctor one thing. I mean, you've got to do the eye test, you've got to do the blood test, you've got to really understand what Alzheimer's is organically from a root cause perspective. This is just grasping, these memory tests are just grasping at straws and giving a reason to then go to a neurologist. And a neurologist just looks at the brain. The disease is a whole body disease, so nothing is really solved by that test.
You see, us were so good. If you have a kid at 10, 12 years old, you measure the white matter in the eye, it matches their IQ. When you do an MRI, you match the white matter, match your IQ. If you take a kid in college, you measure their IQ, you measure their eye fiber, in the brain or in the eye or both, you give them Cod-Lever for 2 years, their IQ improve and their white matter improve. And they don't do that. A lot of kids have problems at school. I think any kid that's a problem at school should have a test. I think everybody should have one. It's a good test if you have a kid 10, 15 years old, just to see to have a baseline. But you know, it's fantastic what you can do, and studies have been done on that. Our tests are so good, we can, if you have thin, the gray matter, we measure the gray matter very well. That's the ganglion cell. The white matter is the internet. The gray matter is the computer. If your white matter is not good, the IQ is not good. But you can do a thing about it. Then if you have a kid with problem at school, it's not a bad thing to have an eye exam, and not a bad thing to have a measurement of the nerve fiber layer.
Did you have a part B to that question?
Yes, good evening, and thank you for all the information. I have a 91-year-old lady that's almost blind. What can we do to help her eyesight? Could she take cod liver oil and eat more eggs?
No, you have to look at her teeth first. You have to look at.
Okay. She did go to the dentist today, and she had some denture problems.
See, when they are advanced like that, I think it's never too late to treat people. See, Tom sent me a patient years ago. The guy was, very Alzheimer. He lived another 5 or 6 years. We treated him. He stayed with his wife. A very pleasant person. He didn't remember what he had for lunch, but it was a very pleasant person. And my goal is to keep people in their home. Florida's going bankrupt with all people retiring in Florida, and then they finish in nursing home. And those people like to live in their home. They don't like to go to nursing home, and it's very expensive. And if you do things well, you can keep almost everybody at home. They're not perfect. That lady is still living at home?
Yes, she tries to get in the kitchen cooking, and she makes me very nervous. But she's also had lots of needles in her eyes.
Oh dear. Yeah. She's lucky she's alive.
Yeah.
You know, what you need to do with her is not worry about her eyes. You've got to worry about the fact that the eye is an indicator of a systemic disease, which is ultimately going to take her down faster. She's done obviously very well to live to that age. But, Dr. Cousins will be doing the kind of blood test now, and we don't have to test her eyes. It's there.
It's there.
It's well beyond there. So now it's a question of blood tests to do to some root cause analysis and then treatment based on whatever those analyses actually divine in terms of what's going on. Everybody's a little bit different. But
the needle didn't work too well. That's what.
All right. Thank you very much.
I'm not in favor of needle too much in the eye. Yeah.
I found your presentation very interesting, and I was wondering if there was anywhere we could actually go online and see it.
Tom, answer that.
This program this evening was supposed to be streamed by, I think, Burn News. They didn't show, but we're actually doing our best to record what's happening this evening. So I'm sure we will have something for you online. I think the website you went to sign up, those of you who went to the beamsbermuda.org, I think if you check with that, I think we'll be having it up there online. I'm sure there are other places where we'll direct you to. So in short, the answer is yes, we will have something for you online.
So Dr. Cousins is forming going to be one of our partner doctors on our website, and I'll have cards, Real Health Clinics. So it's www.realhealthclinics.com. We may or may not have this lecture up, but we have a huge amount of content on that website, video and other content that's all related to Alzheimer's, the diagnostic and treatment process, and everything else that relates to that. So I believe I'll have that up on a slide when I speak.
Okay, here's another question here. Yes, you mentioned about if you got blood in one eye, you wanted to stop that process. But is there a way of reversing it? Not just stopping it from getting from the bad eye to the good eye, but is there a process of reversing that so that you take care of more than just the bad eye?
You see, if it's caused by diabetes, you can return it very well just with medication. A lot of people do surgery to wash the blood, but if the bleeding is caused to diabetes, yes. If it's caused with macular disease, the treatment are not very good putting needle in the eye, and there's about 20 to 25% stroke, heart attack, and mortality with those needles. They're not in us, and it stops the thing that rejuvenates your blood vessels. Then, I stopped doing needle a long time ago. When I see a patient, and when you treat the patient, the eye that they try to dry up with the needle, dries up better when you treat the cause of the disease, and then it doesn't go in the other eye. Me, I'm trying to change, but people don't listen to me. They go, quick. Eye doctors treat the eye. That's in general. Eye doctor treats the eye.
One of my problems with Dr. Trempe is he's often too humble about his patient cohorts. And keep in mind, he is an ophthalmologist treating systemic diseases. So he's up at Harvard. They have a primary care. They have an internist. They have a neurologist. They have a whole bunch of other doctors trying to turn the patient against what Dr. Trempe is saying because he's out there. So, Dr. Trempe sees visual field improvements in the ones with the bad eyes, in the bad eye as well, and a whole bunch of other improvements. But it's really on a case-by-case basis. So, one of our main tenets, and Dr. Trempe alluded to that, is that it's inflammation, which is your immune system, but what's causing the inflammation is oftentimes infection. And it's there because you're vulnerable, your immune system is susceptible. So depending on the type of infection that you have, and a lot of these things are under the baseline of detection, but if you know what you're looking for, you find them. So the species that's involved very much dictates the success of the treatment. So if it's a mycoplasma, that might be different than Q fever, two very different bacteria that can cause the exact same effect in the eye. Q fever, very difficult to treat. Mycoplasma, maybe not as hard to treat. So once again, it's all in the diagnosis, but you have to know what you're looking for before you can even get to that diagnosis.
But don't forget, all those things were published. I was working with John Seddon at Mass INA for 20 years. We were doing blood tests on people, and we know if you have high homocysteine, you're the one that progressed to the other eye. If you have a high C-reactive protein, if you have chlamydia pneumonia, it's an infection of the lining of the blood vessels. A 12% increase compared to people that don't have it. Then we know this is published. That's why when people argue with me, it's published everywhere. We did that at Mass INA. It's published. But people don't do it. That's the problem.
Next question. Hi, good evening. Okay, with age, we get more forgetful, and a couple of us here are concerned regarding forgetfulness and dementia. Are they related? And what was that? Sorry? Oh. Anything else? That was it? Yes, age and forgetfulness.
Yes, if you have problem with your memory, you should go to an eye doctor, first of all. Ask them if you have evidence of neurodegenerative change in the eye. And if you do, see your internist too anyway. Because, you can have problem with memory because you're B12 deficient. You won't have any problem with your eyes. Your eyes will be perfect. And I see that. I see people extremely B12 deficient. They don't absorb B12. They have a problem absorbing B12. Then there's some people don't absorb B12. Sometimes their memory is terrible. I'm not saying every dementia is that, but if you don't see things in the eye and the memory doesn't go, you look at other things.
One of the things we see is that people have been told to be sodium restricted because you're afraid of hypertension. But sodium is extremely important to the body. The problem is we're not getting too much, we're getting into potassium, which balances the sodium off. So you need chloride to make the the stomach acid is hydrochloric acid, so you need the chloride, and you need potassium. So if you are what's called hyponatremia, which is lack of sodium, you will have brain fog. You will have short-term memory issues. So, it's complex, but, that's why you need a good doctor to quarterback things for you because of the complexity of all this, to do a full evaluation of not just your blood, but of all your lifestyle factors. Yeah. But the number one thing we think improves memory, and I know since I met Dr. Trempe 12 years ago that my memory has clearly improved. I was in a bad state. I had part-timers back then, not Alzheimer's, but that's a joke. That's a joke. But, just increasing your fish oil status, every major study, every important study shows that you have less heart disease, less Alzheimer's, but they're not measuring the subtle things like, is your brain just better? If you reduce that even minor inflammation in your brain, that's just baseline, to below the noise, you will have better short-term memory, no doubt about it. But if you're B12 deficient, if you're sodium deficient, some of these other things, we've got to get back to nature, just a balanced diet, get away from the processed foods, get away from the scare tactics of low fat. We've all been on a low-fat diet. What is your brain? It's water and fat. Yeah. Sugars do not feed your brain.
And just wait a second. See, I don't like to talk about treatment, but There's book written like Lipitor, Thief of Memory. I saw a lady 80 years old. I've been telling her for years, she's aching. They gave her prednisone. I'm not able to convince everybody. But if you take 80 milligrams of statsin, affect your memory. There's a couple of books written about that. One is Lipitor, Thief of Memory. Then if you start a problem with your memory, you come to me and you down large dose of Lipitor. There's nothing wrong with the eye.
Okay,
many things.
Our time is basically up, but there's a lady standing, so we'll take that one last question, and then we'll transition.
Thank you. Just very quickly, you'd mentioned Lyme disease when you were talking about inflammation of the brain, and I know you've published that there's a correlation between Lyme disease and potentially developing Alzheimer's. And with a lot more people being diagnosed with Lyme, I mean, what can we do to stay healthy?
Because a lot of the people, it's now people that treat Lyme disease very often send the patient to me first to see if their eyes affected. Some are terrible. They have Lyme disease since they're 5 years old. They don't know now. Don't forget, if you catch tuberculosis, 97% of the time nothing happened. If you catch Lyme disease, nothing happened. You have a good immune system. You're young. Don't think when you get an infection, the people that get sick is the minority. Dr. Lewis says half of 1%. But when you catch TB, you cough blood and you get sick. Most people just get a positive TB skin. That's all. But some people have a lot of problem, and when I see them very often, they have terrible change, and they're 20 years old. I mean, they have had Lyme disease for 20 years.
Yeah, the problem with the treatment out there in the world, everywhere from Harvard on down, is 10 days of intravenous antibiotics, laughable for the Lyme bug. They go into a stealth spore, hidden state, just to reemerge later. You have to have a knowledge of the species and really understand how to treat it and follow it. And so, that's the difference. So, not to scare anybody, but we will treat Lyme with a proper course of treatment for a year, not 10 days, because we're going to be there treating through its evolutionary life cycle to get rid of it. So that's how you treat Lyme.
And if you have abnormal finding in your eye, you have neuroborreliosis, like neurosyphilis. Lyme disease is very similar to syphilis. The people that just got Lyme disease 2 weeks ago don't have that. But if I see a patient, there's already a lot of problem with the neurofibrillary and everything, those people have neuroborreliosis. They have Lyme disease in the brain. And they usually have Lyme disease for quite a while. Then those are much tougher to treat. Neurosyphilis, you don't cure people. You make them better, but it's very hard to cure neurosyphilis, and it's very hard to cure neuroborreliosis.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Please put your hands together for Dr. Clement Trempe.
So we are halfway, and while you're stretching, if you could help to give a round of applause to Dr. Trempe, we really appreciated that. And I don't know about you, but I just love when people are passionate about what they do. It means quite a bit. And I want to thank also, while we're midway, because some are leaving too, thank Joanne, Dr. Cousins from Beams, and the Foresight for having this. So moving quickly along, before I start, I was taking some notes, and I want to compare my notes with your notes just to make sure that you're paying attention. Now, just a warning, my notes are a tad lighthearted. First of all, note number 1, make an appointment with the eye doctor immediately. Okay, you got that in your notes? Okay, note number 2, the new normal, it's all downhill after 25. We're going to have to change the age, eligibility at age concern from 50 to 25. 3, we have to check out that eye and jail connection. We'll talk with Dr. Trempe after that. I have some social partners that will be interested. And finally, I think I need to rethink my current weight loss plan. I mean, after all, I want to avoid that muscle loss after 60. So I got new things to talk about. But most importantly, I think what Dr. Trempe has so eloquently and passionately shared with us tonight, the eyes, they are not only the windows to the soul, but they're the key to detecting Alzheimer's, perhaps, when we are old. And I think that's a great takeaway. So moving on to, obviously, another very passionate individual in Dr. Thomas Lewis, who is, as he said, the CEO of Real Health Clinics. Dr. Lewis, PhD, is an inorganic and physical chemist with degrees from Worcester Polytechnic Institute and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT. He is the founder of Real Health companies, including Real Health Clinics. He's based these businesses on the work of Dr. Clement Trempe, who we heard, and Dr. Kilmer McCulley. These clinicians are pioneers in systemic chronic diseases, disease detection using ocular biomarkers, germ therapy, inflammatory diseases, and micronutrient balance in immune health. Real Health Clinics developed the clinical protocol based on their combined work through the efforts of Dr. Lewis to address a range of chronic diseases of aging. Dr. Lewis is also engaged in developing new small molecule therapeutics for the treatment of diseases of aging, with a special focus on Alzheimer's disease. He is a member of the American Chemical Society, a member of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, Phi Beta Phi, and a member of the National Engineering and Science Honor Society. Please help me to welcome Dr. Lewis.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Trempe started his talk by saying he doesn't have any financial interest and even let the patents expire, so anybody can do what he does. And I can't outdo Dr. Trempe. Believe me, he's my mentor. I've known him for 12 years, and he's changed my life. But we've written a book together, The End of Alzheimer's, A Differential Diagnosis Towards a Cure. I will admit it may not be the easiest read you've ever picked up, so you folks who have a little brain inflammation and you have some insomnia, this is your cure. Okay? And so to that end, we make this book available on our website as a downloadable version for free. And we've recently published a second book, which I won't really talk about today, but called Quarterback Your Own Health. And it is also downloadable for free. We just want to share the information. If you want the physical hard copy, Dr. Cousins has 6 in her office, which we sent her. It's expensive to send stuff to Bermuda, I found out. But and you can obviously order it through Amazon. And we're very proud. We put our stake in the ground on what Alzheimer's is all about in 2014. Obviously, Dr. Trempe knew this in 1990s, but we make it available to you. So I'm going to speak rapid fire, but hopefully I bring things to an organic level, an actionable level for you. And in particular, in this book, Chapter 10 is prevention of Alzheimer's. And if you really look at disease, unless you slip off the slippery slope, whatever you do to prevent will also reverse to some degree, unless there are circumstances that's where you pull the doctor in. So if you just read Chapter 10 in the book, it would give you a lot of the advice that Dr. Trempe has pontificated about. But what I want to do is do a very simple example of the difference between, my wife's worried when I pull the microphone off, because then it's, who knows what I'm going to say. Can you hear me back there? Yes. Okay, so everybody thinks, we need to have one special pill developed to cure Alzheimer's, okay? We're all waiting for that one pill and waiting and waiting. In the meantime, 5 million people, 25 million worldwide have Alzheimer's disease. What I'm here to tell you is that one silver bullet pill will never come. It's a multifactorial disease, many factors. They can't develop a pill that's as good as vitamin D, which goes against 250 genes. They do one at a time. So you have to take responsibility. Let me give you a simple example. Mr. Bint, how would you like it? I'll give you a choice. I hand you $1 million. That's a one-shot deal in 30 days. Or today I give you a penny. Tomorrow I give you 2 pennies. Tomorrow I give you 2 pennies. The next day I give you 4 pennies, 8 pennies, 16 pennies, so on and so forth for 31 days. What will you take? The $1 million or the pennies?
The pennies.
You are too smart. Everybody else says the $1 million because at the end of 31 days, you have $11 million. Okay, so the example is, it's not the $1 million, it's not that one pill, it's not that $1 million handed to you. It's, we got to fix your vitamin D. We got to check your sodium. We got to make sure your gut health is in perfect health because most of your immunity stems from the gut. And your serotonin that calms your brain is produced in the gut. We've got to check for inflammation. We've got to check for infection. It's all the little things. No pill, no one pill is going to do all that. Can we agree to that? Yes. Okay. So that's why we're here, and that's why we're supporting a great doctor in your community. So, Mr. Binns, you shut me down, but it's worked anyway. You're the man. You're a fantastic guy. So, let's quickly go on. If you're worried about Alzheimer's, Dr. Trempe talked mainly about the eye. I want to talk about 5 simple steps. 5 very simple steps. Okay, do a baseline memory test. We may not figure out what to do, but now we know where you are. So it's valuable. And then you can measure us and we can measure you. Are you following what we're telling you to do, and are we doing the right things? The next thing would be living profile. It's something that Dr. Trempe and I have developed. It's really just a risk score, and I'm pretty sure Dr. Cousins will adopt this. And so it's basically an intake, a history, a discussion, but we've designed it around chronic inflammatory diseases like Alzheimer's. You take our profile, and we know. Where's my pennies? Did I lose them all? I got one left. So we know all the little things that are adding up to that big thing. So that's very important. So you need a doctor who understands causation to ask the right questions, like, do your gums bleed? You talked about bad health, bad oral health. It covers all these different things. Blood tests. Dr. Trempe talked a lot about the eye test. Blood tests are actually earlier in the genesis of Alzheimer's in terms of detecting it. However, it's very difficult to walk into an office for a prevention test and have blood drawn. It's just not done. Okay, unfortunately, but I wish it were. But the blood test, your blood doesn't lie, that tells us what's going on, and the blood will tell you whether you're on a path to poor health and accelerated aging, which includes Alzheimer's, 20, 30 years before you have symptoms. Then the eye test, the difference between the blood test and the eye test is the eye test is actually measuring cellular change, pathology. Okay, so when you have the drusen in the back of the eye, you have retinal nerve layer thinning, you have cortical cataracts. This is actual tissue changes. Your blood changes first, then your tissue changes. But the good thing is, when we see the earliest signs of tissue changes in your eye, you're younger, you're healthier, you're more treatable, and you don't have Alzheimer's yet. It's still something we can do well before you have the disease. Okay, so the fifth question, the gentleman back there and other people have had questions, so what do you treat? How do you treat? It's, well, we're seeing all these markers. That is guiding us down a path. We're not groping out in the dark. It's guiding us down a path to what we call the usual suspects that we have to go through this process through first, to then test to say, yes, you have Lyme, you have gum disease, you have a lack of sodium in your diet, you have a number of different things that are then modulatable, but never just one thing modulatable. There's usually many things that we're going to modulate. Okay, so advanced tests, and that's, we accumulate all the previous 4 tests to figure out what to do next. So now I'm going to break into a different topic, and I'm going to talk about empowering you folks. I'm going to talk about the genesis of health, and I'm going to whip through this quickly for the time, but it's the kinds of things that have changed in our world that's affecting our health today. That when you're aware of it, you can compensate it for it to some degree. So, I haven't given this presentation in a long time, but God put us on this perfect earth, and then over time, we've had all this stuff made available to us, okay? So, Earth came before life, life evolved from the earth, life starts with water, life uses what's in the water. Okay? So we all come from, every nutrient we have comes from rocks. What breaks down the rocks, the lichens, all these different things. If it doesn't get into the water, we can't get it. Okay? So, soil. Soil is alive. Okay? We have water, organisms, organic matter, minerals. Why can they plant? And biblically, they let the land lie fallow. Why do they do that? Because they needed a year for the, they needed a year for the organisms to break down the rocks into absorbable minerals that the plant could uptake. That's why you leave a field fallow for a while. We don't do that anymore. And the roots, it's amazing, I won't get into it, but roots are two ways. The plants actually send stuff back into the soil to help break down the rocks into usable minerals. So we gain nourishment through two ways. We either eat the plants, or we eat the animals that ate the plants. Or we ate the fish that ate the little fish, that ate the littler fish, that ate the algae, and that's where the omega-3s come from that are so important in our brain. From the algae, then up the food chain. Okay? So, we are what we don't eat or drink. Our foods are deficient in vital nutrients today. This is the big insidious thing with GMOs. That's why the Europeans have banned GMOs. Because I can get a plant that grows super well in magnesium deficient soil by having a GMO seed that grows in magnesium deficient soil. Guess what? The plant is magnesium deficient, the animal is magnesium deficient, you're magnesium deficient. Okay? Simple things like that. So anything that's processed beverages, anything that's processed, it's not easy, take them out of your life. They're deficient. They're deficient. All of them. They're stripped, they're empty calories. You can be obese but malnourished. Your brain has very specific micronutrient demands. So you're trying to diet, you're trying to lose weight. Okay, don't lose too much per Dr. Trempe, but you might want to lose a little, I don't know. I'm not going to judge. But let's just say that you eat something and it's not nutritious to your brain. Your brain controls everything. Are you going to be satiated? Are you going to be happy? No, you're still going to be hungry. And the only recourse your brain has is to keep telling you you're hungry until you provide the nutrients that satisfies it. So that's why these empty calories, these kids are obese, because they're eating the 48, 64-ounce soda and the crap food with no nutrients, and that's a big problem. So here's a study, the nutritionsecurity.org, and it basically shows increase in heart disease from 1900 to 1960, with a decrease in mineral content of lettuce, cabbage, carrots, all our plants, because we're growing these things on fields that are stripped of the nutrients. Okay, so here's an even worse curve. So now that we have mechanized farming and artificial fertilizers, we need at least 25 essential minerals and vitamins and minerals. Essential means we can't manufacture them in our own body. We have to get them from the outside. In Nebraska, where we're getting all the corn, they put 4 to 6 back on. Well, in my math, that's 19 to 21 shy of what we need. And that's just the tip of the iceberg to what we really need. So you're shy in all these things. So we add the pesticides and all that are going into our foods that we're eating. So, I asked the question of Mr. Binns, and I think it might have been Joanne, Dr. Cousins, where's the food supply coming from? Sadly, Bermuda is getting some of their food supply from the United States. Bad news. Bad news. Go to the shipping docks and say, turn all those back, get me a food supply that's real. That will do it? Okay. So, the drinks. Naked beverage, all these smoothies. When you look at them, they're all sugar. What drives me crazy is all these beverages for the seniors inshore. And they brag about all the minerals they put in them. They put a few minerals in them. It's easy to advertise that, but the first ingredient is water, and the next 4 ingredients are some form of sugar. The reason why your brain is inflamed is because sugar in the bloodstream has a lot of oxygen and it creates a lot of inflammation. It's just bad for your brain. We need the healthy fats. So, and it's everywhere. You've got to become a package reader. You've got to become a package reader, and unfortunately, you know, the good stuff does cost a little bit more, but being sick is a whole lot more expensive. So, was it Western Price? He showed that we had the reason why we survived, you know, Little House on the Prairie. They lived on a potato during the long winter. Why? Because they had butter, and the butter was from the cows, from the early spring grass, full of healthy fats and things that support the brain. Okay, now all our cows are fed that Nebraska corn, full of glyphosate, the Roundup, and all full of corn. It's like corn has omega-6s. Omega-6s aren't bad, but all the food supply has omega-6. We're overloaded. You know, if you have too much oxygen, it's not good for you. If you have too little oxygen, it's not good for you. There's a balance. If you have too much omega-6, it's not good for you. That's what we have. Omega-6 is an inflammatory oil. So, here's a simple example of a civilization. This simple little thing, the water flowing out of Lake Victoria in Africa, sustained life for 10,000 years. Now they're damming it up. Why? Because every year, that was a floodplain that in the wintertime fled over from the rivers and put the silt back on the soil. And then they grew the soil. Then they grew the plants on that freshly re-established soil. So all the plants and all the animals that ate the plants were fully nourished. Made us healthy. Now let's look at America. Fortunately, you're in Bermuda. But where did it go? Come back. That is the drainage plain from Middle America, Central America, where all the Central North America, where all the farming is. Guess what? All the nutrients are being drained out into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, I suggested we take all the silt, all that floodplain, and put it right back in Nebraska, but Louisiana wasn't too happy with that idea. But that's their problem. But so I want to talk about these minerals that aren't in the foods we eat anymore and how important they are. So what do the minerals do? They make vitamins, they reduce toxicity, and they make enzymes. So here's a simple B vitamin. Dr. Trempe talked about B vitamin deficiency and brain fog. At the middle, you may not see it, the little plus sign is called cobalt. Cobalt by itself is extremely toxic. But if we don't have this trace mineral, we don't produce the B vitamin and all the good things that that vitamin does. So we need these trace minerals. Toxicity. Lead, we're worried about children and lead toxicity. If we have proper minerals in our body, the lead will not will not be toxic. Our body will flush it out. The problem is we don't have the good minerals that compete against the lead and then cause the lead to become benign and get flushed out of our body. So here's an enzyme. At the middle, that little green dot, that's a mineral. We need enzymes that work. Dr. Trempe talked about the million on a million proteins. Enzymes are the instruments that make all our proteins, that renew all our tissue. So I look at what minerals do. It's our DNA is the blueprint, but the enzymes are the carpenters. You're not going to have very much of a structure if you just have the plan, but you don't have the workers. And then, of course, the nails and the hammers are the food we eat. So if you're giving the carpenter rubber nails, it's going to have a lousy structure. So it all works together. So, simple solution. Everybody go out and buy a mineral supplement. I'd recommend that. Sea salt, one of the best things you can do. Take a little diluted sea salt and get your unrefined sea salt and sprinkle it on your food. But here's the conundrum. Plants are people too. So this is a patent from 1963. Maynard Murray, he went all around the world espousing that if you put sea salt on farmland, you would actually produce pesticide-free, much more robust, better-growing vegetables. So what he said is, but it wasn't just that the minerals were getting into the plants and you're eating the plants, the minerals we're getting into the plants, and the plants are synthesizing the vitamins you need as well. So that's why our plants are vitamin deficient, because of the minerals at the base. So he said vitamin A and vitamin C were found in greater quantity in the sea salt crop compared to the ones where, and this was back in the 1960s, when our soils weren't stripped so badly. So here's a little anecdotal story. So Dr. Trempe talked about how tens of thousands of years ago we lived at 35. Well, there was a period of time in England in 1870, where the mid-Victorians, very poor people. I mean, there's no poverty like the mid-Victorians in America. They lived as long as we live today with 10% of the degenerative diseases we had today. Why? They didn't have processed foods. The shipping industry didn't really have, the canning industry hadn't come into play, so they're canning foods in big processing plants and shipping them all over the world. When they ate the chicken, this was not Campbell soup, this was real chicken soup. Bone broth, boiled for 48 hours, the liver, the heart, they ate the whole thing. They had a little organic garden in the backyard. Yeah, they were poor. They lifted 20 tons of soil a day to build British infrastructure, but they lived healthier than most of us are living today. In America, we just went backwards in life expectancy. But the problem is, even with our good life expectancy, I talked about that 80 or 100 years, a lot of us are living longer, but in this catatonic state maintained by the drug industry of relatively poor health. Is that great? Yes. These people didn't live that way. They died suddenly. God bless them, but they lived healthy. So, how the cardiologists in America talk about disease and cholesterol lowering, which is the fat and saturated fats, and whoops, the French have the lowest heart disease in the world, just about, in the developed nations in the world. And they do everything wrong by our standards. Yeah, they drink a little wine, that's not so bad. High fat. Any French in here? I'm sorry, but the French society, they're a little, they're laid back, that's good, but they're a little lazy, they don't do a lot of exercise, they smoke a lot, eat a lot of high fat, but they have very low heart disease, they have very low Alzheimer's. It's the French paradox. Okay, let's see what the French paradox is. You too should become French. Send the British out and become French. Is there any politicians here? Sorry about that. So, let's digest the French paradox. Here's an American farm, here's a French farm. Slight difference, okay? Here's a French plate. Thank God you guys don't have McDonald's, but the American plate is the McDonald's, the Big Maca and the French fries. But folks, what is this? Liver pate. Nothing in the meat category more nutritious than liver. Find yourself a good woman or a good man, I have, who can cook you up some liver and have it once in a while. Liver and onions. What we do with the children is we take the liver and we grind it up and we cook it with a hamburger and we turn it into spaghetti sauce. And they don't know. They don't know they had liver. Okay? Oh dear. I don't know what's going on, but they're bread. In America, the bread comes to the shelf 3 weeks after it's made, and 3 months later it's still fresh. That's not bread. That's why we have leaky gut and all these diseases of autoimmunity, including multiple sclerosis and other neurological conditions. Because the bread has so much gluten in it and so many preservatives. You go to the patisserie in France, and this is where the French and the English, the British can actually work together, because if you go get a baguette at 6 p.m., you can use it to play cricket. Can you not? Okay? That's bread. If you can't play cricket with your bread, don't eat it. That's my advice. So this is Dr. Trempe, one of the few doctors that, it's an expensive test, but he's periodically done this. We should have a 4-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. Omega-6 being the inflammatory oil, corn oil, soybean oil, canola oil, margarine,
what else did I hit on, Jasmine? But so the omega-3s are really just the fish oils. So how you ameliorate the omega-6s is you use coconut oil, that's neutral. Olive oil is the monounsaturated, avocado oil. Get rid of every restaurant, I guarantee you, uses cheap oil, even good restaurants, because they're in there for profit. You at home, you're cooking to make your family healthy, you get the good oils. So at 25 to 1, your immune system is weak, and you're susceptible to the tuberculosis, to have more drusen in the back of your eye, all these different things. These are simple things. So here's some basic recommendations, and most of it's in chapter 10 of our book. There are certain things you have to supplement for. There's no doubt about it. One of them is vitamin D, or get a half hour of sun out there, and we're doing that. It's fantastic. Do not be sunophobic. My wife Jasmine worked at a dermatological Mohs cancer surgery clinic. All the doctors were sick. Shingles and all kinds of things. Tell all the patients to go out in the sun. You can get rid of a squamous or whatever these things are, basal cell. You need vitamin D. People who had high vitamin D in the 1800s before antibiotics didn't get tuberculosis. They're much more resilient. Their immune system's much better. So magnesium, multi-mineral. Be careful about multi-minerals. We're very fussy. If you go to CVS, financially the seventh largest company in the world, you're paying $8 for their Spectravite vitamins. Believe me, they cost 50 cents from China. You don't want that. Buy something good. My key word, and you may not be taking notes, if the vitamin says for the B they have cyanocobalamin, put it down. You want the methylcobalamin. That's a vitamin that's prepared at a higher level. Fermented foods. We got to support gut health. A lot of people are on Tom's on proton pump inhibitors. I wrote a blog on the little purple poison. If you don't have enough stomach acid, and that's what those proton pump inhibitors do, they reduce your acid, you have lost much of your immunity. That is what leads in 20, 30 years to infection and fungi and mold toxins to take over and get in your brain and cause Alzheimer's disease. Okay? Grow your own, even if it's a little patio plant in the backyard. Use wood ash, use a little sea salt. Get good organic foods to the extent you can. That's it for that section. I'm going to segue into another section, and I think what Dr. Trempe really expressed to you folks is that Alzheimer's is not a brain-only disease. It's a multifactorial inflammatory disease. We see it in the eye. Macular degeneration is a vascular disease. When you have bleeding from vessels in the back of the eye, it's the exact same thing that's happening in the heart when you have a heart attack. It's an atherosclerotic plaque. It's a plaque. You can see it. So really, the brain governs everything. But neurons in the brain are fixed. They're in your brain. The blood carries everything. The circulatory system. So really, most of these diseases precipitate through the circulatory system. So I want to explain to you, see, is there a neurologist in the house? Your neurologist has to go beyond the brain. If they're just testing the brain, they will never figure out why you're sick, and they will never be able to come up with a solution. You've got to look beyond it. And let me just show you the connection, the profound connection between vascular heart disease and Alzheimer's disease. So Hippocrates, they all signed the Hippocratic Oath. And Hippocrates said, whatever's good for the heart is probably good for the mind. Now, I stole this from the internet, but whoever put it together had it wrong. The brain should really be taking the hand of the heart, because the brain is the master regulator. But the heart's very important. So, the New England Journal of Medicine is the top medical journal in the world. There's no question about it. It comes from Harvard and Mass General. But recently passed on senior editor, chief editor of the New England Journal of Medicine said, even my journal is corrupt. Big money. Big money plays such a big role. But every once in a while there's some gems. So here's one where they're basically coming up with a whole new conclusion. That heart disease is Alzheimer's disease of the heart. See, glaucoma, Dr. Trempe didn't say this, glaucoma is Alzheimer's disease of the eye, and Alzheimer's is glaucoma of the brain. They're all interconnected. They're all, the $64,000 question is why a disease happens in one person in one place and another person in another place. That's a conundrum we may never solve. But organically, it's just a question of, it's all happening, it's just a question of where it expresses first. And the brain is actually much more resilient than the eye, and the eye is obviously transparent, so we see it in the eye first. But it's happening in the brain too. And it's happening in the vasculature. And we know that because macular disease we see the bleeding in the eye. So, what I want to show you, this is what I'm going to discuss for the next 10 minutes, is that heart disease is not a disease of the big vessel like we've been made to believe. It's a disease of the very small vessels that support the big vessels. Think about your home. If you have a big pipe and a little pipe, which pipe clogs first? Can you tell your doctor that, please? It's very simple. So, heart disease is a disease of the small vessels that support the large vessels. Alzheimer's is a disease of the small vessels of the brain. And I will come up with solutions for you, more or less, but really you've got to see a doctor when you have memory impairment, you've got to be analyzed to figure out what is causing these vascular conditions, and it's not high cholesterol. High blood pressure is not a disease, it's a symptom. Essential hypertension is 98% of the hypertension diagnoses. Ask your doctor what essential hypertension is, and they'll say, it's elevated blood pressure of unknown cause. They can't tell you that, they tell you it's essential hypertension. Nice, pretty diagnosis. It's not your disease. So, if you look at heart attacks, it's something happening in the largest vessels. Stroke, large vessels, mini stroke, brain vessels, vascular dementia, fine vessels, Alzheimer's capillaries. So, this is sort of the picture we see. We have blood flow, and we see this picture of these cholesterol buildups. I will tell you one thing. The only thing accurate about this picture, which is in every doctor's office, is that with age, we get occlusion, closure, shrinking of the interior of the vessel. But it's not the way they describe it. I'll show you what it really is all about. So, here's the blood vessel, and here's the tube that the blood's coming out of, but the endothelial of the vessel, the tubing, if you will, not the tube, but the tubing, is a complex physiological structure. And there's little teeny blood vessels, capillaries, that feed and nourish this layer to keep the blood vessel healthy. It's not just like a plastic pipe, where it's a complex structure. So this is the outside of the vessel, and this is the inside. So what happens is we have these small vessels that get diseased, often from infection, and then we have all these cytokines, that's the inflammation, recruited into this area to come to the rescue of your body. What happens though is the disease progresses. If your immune system isn't strong enough to overcome it, this grows into this big sac that didn't come from inside, as they show here. It actually came from the outside. Okay? And that's what it's all about. So let me show you what it looks like under great magnification inside your vessel. It looks like this. So here's where the blood flow is, and then behind is the vessel. And you get this sac that starts blocking. And if that sac releases, depending on the vessel it's in, it can cause a heart attack, cause a blockage, it can cause a stroke. It can lead to vascular dementia, it can lead to Alzheimer's. So let me just tell you what this picture really is. What I just told you is true. That's a pimple. That's a pimple on your face. Very few people, maybe more than I give credit for, don't realize that people with chronic acne, that's an infectious disease. And that pus sac is because of the infection under the dermis that is recruiting that your immune system is trying to overcome. So you get the pus sac. It's the exact same process inside your vessels. It's an infectious disease. So here's a heart attack. We have that pus sac explode. enlarged vessel, blocks the heart. So here's a stroke. Smaller vessel in the brain gets blocked off, and now all the vessels downstream of that are blocked off, and there's no more circulation. So guess what? The neurons, the nerve cells, the brain cells die off. You have to have a capillary within 3 cell diameters of every living cell. So if you start blocking these things off, tissue starts dying. It's called necrosis. So then microinfarcts, which if you get an MRI, your doctor might say, oh, you had some microinfarcts. You may not know it. It's just a mini stroke. You may not know it. You have a little memory fog or whatever. But you may have had a dozen mini strokes already. The MRI will pick up on that. So this is vascular dementia. Now I'm going down finer than this diagram can show. So what we have is some of these smaller vessels. We can get a diagnosis of vascular dementia. Why? Because your neurologist can look at your brain in an MRI and actually see these small vessels and say, oh, I'm seeing some problems with these small vessels. That's vascular dementia. How is it different from Alzheimer's? It's not. Okay? Because Alzheimer's is simply these very, very fine capillaries. And the problem with a very expensive MRI is the MRI cannot see the small capillaries. They can't see the disease. They have no clue. So it's just called Alzheimer's disease. So here's an example. Vascular dementia is the last level of brain disease that a neurologist can see with an MRI. And so, from a scale perspective, this is the size of a vessel that they can see with an MRI. This is a capillary. So when Dr. Trempe talked about the OCT, it's 1,000 times more accurate than an MRI. He can see blood cells, real time, going through the capillaries. And what's really interesting is a blood vessel, a red blood cell, is round or disc-shaped. When it goes through a capillary, it has to deform and become very oblong. And the more inflammation, the more these plaques you have in your blood vessels, the more they get beaten up, and when they come out the other side and go into your vessels, they actually expand. And we can see that through a $2 test, red blood cell distribution, to see if your vasculature is beating up your blood cells because your vessels, your capillaries are inflamed. Very simple test. So, in conclusion, Alzheimer's is a vascular disease of the capillaries. Now, if you look at it, now you understand from this image why Alzheimer's comes on so slowly. It's just at the very end of the circulatory system that you have zillions of capillaries. I mean, there's like 100,000 miles of capillaries in your brain. So you're slowly losing one by one, very, very slowly. That's why I dropped the pennies at the beginning. You're starting to lose a capillary, you're starting to lose another capillary, it's reversible if we get you early enough. It slowly progresses as capillaries die. MRI, most of the things that neurologists do, they can't see it. It's a vascular disease. It's a sick brain in a sick body. And if you're worried about your brain, worry about your body first, because that's where it shows up first. So don't worry about your brain, worry about your body, and we'll fix the brain as the body repairs itself. So I'm just going to talk about, a lot of talk about causation. What is it? It's cholesterol. The original cholesterol study, and the only people that's ever been proven to see any kind of vascular mortality benefit is men my age with already pre-diagnosed severe cardiovascular disease. They have cholesterol 350, and you put them on a statin drug and you reduce cardiovascular mortality by a scant 0.3%. But overall mortality goes up because when you lower cholesterol, you get more cancer, you get more diabetes because you reduce your immune system. So when you look at why the cholesterol went up, Dr. Trempe said it very simply. You have bad periodontal disease, your cholesterol goes up. Kaiser Permanente, a huge organization in California, showed that if you have cholesterol below 160, you have much higher rates of infection, and if you had AIDS, you're the ones who died. The ones with higher cholesterol survived. Cholesterol is an antibiotic. Sorry, that's just the truth of the matter. So it's a vascular disease. Both diseases involve inflammation. Infection is connected to inflammation. Chlamydia pneumoniae and spirochetes, which are Lyme bugs, are common in both diseases. And chlamydia pneumoniae is not the STD. Half the world is infected with chlamydia pneumoniae. It's a respiratory infection, but very few people have symptoms. But it goes in the brain. That's the problem with it. So here's just your inflammation ABCs. Our immune system is like a muscle. If you have strong immunity, you have low inflammation, okay? Inflammation, if you have a strong immune system, my analogy is Arnold Schwarzenegger, he gets a 10-pound weight. He can curl that thing all day long, but the 98-pound weakling, the muscle soon goes into tremor. A tremor, that's the analogy to inflammation. Strong immunity, chlamydia pneumoniae, no problem. Lyme disease, no problem. Toxoplasmosis, this is a bug, gets in the brain. Causes schizophrenia, causes depression first, causes all kinds of things. People with strong immune systems are for the most part resilient. Weak immunity, Dr. Cousins will be doing a test, basic baseline test for inflammation. If your inflammation is high, it means one of two things. Either your immune system is really weak and susceptible to any kind of external factor that affects your body, or your immune system is very strong and you have something very persistent and aggressive. So this is death rates from influenza from birth to death. And we can see what it really is. It's a map of your immune system strength. When we're born, our immune system is developing, and it's kind of weak, but it develops, and then our immune system is strong for a long time, and then it starts decaying. Okay? Like Dr. Trempe said, our real goal with everybody is to push this curve so it becomes much steeper. You die quickly, but you live those 25 extra years. So here's infection facts. Chlamydia pneumonia, by age 20, 50% of the world have detectable levels. Toxoplasmosis, this is the CDC in America. The #1 most undiagnosed disease in America. 60 million Americans have it, not that many expressed symptoms. Kobe beef, beef tartare, raw beef, cat scratch fever, cat feces, all these things spread toxo. Epstein-Barr, herpes zoster, these are dormant viruses. If you have shingles, that's herpes zoster. You'll have it coming alive again in your body. It should never happen. Tuberculosis, Alzheimer's, the largest retirement community over 55 in America is the Villages in Florida. They have the highest rates of syphilis in the country. They're all going towards dementia, believe me. Got it. So infectious disease of aging, it's really latent pathogens, but it all tracks with immune health. So how infection damages, infection releases calcium. Calcium is good, but not in the tissue. Infection triggers inflammation. Cholesterol responds to the insult. That's why we worry about cholesterol, because in sick people we find elevated cholesterol. It's not the cause, it's there to the rescue, but we just see it and associate it. And it's very easy to give you a cholesterol pill. Very simple. And it results in hypoxia, this lack of oxygen in the capillaries, and then you get the cell death. So here's the book that every lady should read, The Calcium Hypothesis of Dementia and Aging. Basically it says, get your calcium from natural foods. Women who supplement from calcium that think they're going to make their bones stronger die much more from cardiovascular disease because the calcium is getting in the soft tissue. It's a big problem. I understand there was a really good doctor on the island that convinced a lot of the ladies not to take calcium supplements. He was absolutely correct. Cholesterol. Here's a simple chart, and I got to wind up quickly, but here's deaths for cardiovascular disease, and here's smoking trends. Okay, this red line reflects when statins became in vogue, when they first introduced statins. So I asked you, if you look at the death curve from all the vascular disease, how much impact do you see from statin drugs? Not much. Take a look at the smoking trend. They line up almost exactly. Okay, blood sugar. We are finding higher mortality, so if you're diabetic, and we're reducing your blood sugar significantly with drugs, you die faster. Why? Because if you're diabetic, it means you need more sugar, let's say 10 sugars to get one in your cell. Whereas someone non-diabetic only needs 1 sugar to get a sugar in that cell. So now we're artificially lowering the amount of sugar in your blood, and Dr. Trempe said 25% of what you eat produces energy for your brain. What tissue in your body uses the most energy? Your brain. Now you have to have a lot of sugar in your blood just to get a little sugar into a cell, and a neuron is a cell, causes a real problem. That's why people who are tightly controlled for diabetes with artificial drugs die a lot faster. Your numbers look fantastic. Your A1C went down, you get the great ads on TV, your glucose went down, you died faster. Well, they forgot to mention that. That's just a minor point. But the way you solve diabetes is not by hammer and nail pushing your sugar down, it's by finding the inflammatory cause of the reason why your cells are not accepting the sugar into them and fixing that. And we do that all day long. Okay? Blood pressure. All the older people are put on blood pressure lowering meds because your blood pressure should be the same as my 23-year-old weightlifting son. It's not true. Our vessels get stiff. What tissue now do you think needs a lot of blood supply? Your brain, maybe? What tissue is telling your kidneys to increase your blood pressure? Your brain. What is the drug telling your kidneys to do? Who's right?
Your brain.
Thank you. Low blood pressure might speed mental decline and dementia, but the worst thing is you take the blood pressure med, your vessels are stiff, you wake up, you go to the bathroom, you get a little woozy, you fall, you break a hip, and your life's over. So you don't even get to experience the beautiful effects of the low blood pressure on, dementia. So, and then heartburn. This is Harvard. Harvard can never commit. They always said that, like, the drug companies give me a lot of money, but I know that this isn't good, but what do I do? So they say, can heartburn drugs cause cognitive problems? It absolutely does. It absolutely does, because if you don't have good stomach acid, you're not absorbing those minerals, you're not making the enzymes, you're not rebuilding all the tissue Dr. Trempe is talking about, and the brain. If I come back in 6 months, if I'm blessed to come back in 6 months, everybody here, every cell in your brain will be different than it is today. You turn over every cell in your brain in 6 months. So start today, taking your cod liver oil, getting your vitamin D, getting organic food, and improving, and your brain will be better in 6 months. So I'm done. Alzheimer's is a disease of immune health. Weak immunity leads to infection that triggers inflammation, hypoxia, and necrosis, all these nasty things. Proper immune health keeps pathogens in check. We've written the book. Go on the website, download it, read chapter 10. Don't get bogged down in chapters 1 through 9. But read them if you like. And then we have a we're done.
Check 1. Okay. Wonderful. You are an amazing audience. You actually stuck to it to the end. I think you deserve to give yourselves a round of applause. Now, don't worry, all the information that we got, whatever we captured on camera, we'll have it on the Dean's website, and we'll make sure that Dr. Lewis also has it available on his website. We'll get you all the information, all these websites he's pointing you to, we'll have them available for you as well. Especially for those of you who signed up online, there's a way to get those information back to you through email. Now, because time is of the essence and we need to get out of here 9:30 or shortly thereafter, we're going to have to shorten our question and answer section for this segment. So instead of 30 minutes, we have 15 minutes. Therefore, I'm asking you, so that more people get to ask their question, if you can make your questions as short as possible, then more people will be benefited from it.
Before we do that, we had mentioned a sign-up sheet about the cognitive testing or the screening if people are interested.
Okay.
We can just pass it around. It's just to get a feedback of how it is, and we'll contact you when we get everything sorted out for June 1st.
Okay, so you saw the video online of the lady doing the testing. That testing is coming to Bermuda later this year, and I think it's going to be on a first-come, first-served basis. If you'd like to be at the end of the line, just raise your hand, someone will bring a piece of paper to you, and we'll get you ready for that test when it comes. Okay, lady with the mic, please go ahead. Good evening.
Good evening. First of all, I have to tell you, I'm married to a Frenchman, and the diet is the best.
There you go. There you go.
And so are the Frenchmen. Sorry.
Well, I did say I think we all should go a little French, right? So you're just ahead of the game.
And the bread, well, the bread is to die for. You see me obese, but the bread here is not too sharp.
No question. No question.
There's just something else I must
A little closer to your mouth.
I hear you like liver. There's one restaurant in Bermuda, the Swiss Inn in Bailey's Bay, is probably the only restaurant that has liver on its menu, and it's very good.
Thank you very much. Well, I recommend everybody buy some liver and find a way, be creative to get it into your diet. Heart, tongue, everything, pancreas, eat it all. Make your own Campbell soup. Okay, next person. Okay, there's a lady at the back. Beautiful young lady at the back. Oh, I'm sorry.
What's the website? Just the website she was concerned about. She said she saw it in the newspaper.
What's that again?
The website. The website.
BeamsBermuda.org. BEAMS Bermuda, one word, .org. Dr. Lewis's website, Real Health Clinics with an S. Real Health Clinics. And Dr. Cousins, I'm sure will have a link to my website so you can get the book and get some more information about what we do. Okay. Next question? Yes, ma'am.
You have
to go a little closer.
Too close to the mic. Listening to the summit tonight is very interesting, but you talk about to prevent Alzheimer's through the arts. But what actually happens if you actually have Alzheimer's and dementia? Is there any type of food or anything that you
The reason why we showed the video at the beginning of the two gentlemen, particularly the 84-year-old who was definitely out of it, I mean, everybody should try to, particularly sick people, need to work extra hard to comport themselves well. We recommend high-dose cod liver oil. The one we recommend is Carlson's. It's a liquid or a pill, but it has the right vitamin A. They used cod liver oil in the 1800s to treat tuberculosis. And if you're looking at an infectious component to this disease, it's very effective. But even a person progressed, as long as they're not in a diaper, that's sort of our cutoff line. If they're just having memory problems, but they're not so that they can't function, there are three main factors of maintaining life, then they need to be diagnosed and they can be treated. So like that gentleman, 84 years old, he had chlamydia pneumonia, he had mycoplasma, he had a little TB. Dr. Trempe treated him with a aggressive but gentle cocktail for 6 months. And you can see the difference between the beginning and 6 months later. So it's all about the diagnosis for the treatment. But anybody, no matter where you are in the spectrum of Alzheimer's, from nowhere near it to fully involved, should be following all the preventative measures we have in our book. And everything I just talked about today. Okay, there's a lady over to my right, to your left. Please go ahead. There's a hand up there at the back.
Good evening. I have a question about the fish oil. Is hemp hearts just as good as fish oil?
Hemp oil?
Hemp hearts.
Yeah, well, so you Your neurons really are made of the omega-3 marine fatty acids. So the linoleic acid in hemp oil is a very good oil, and it's much better than the corn oils and things like that. But it converts, our body converts it to the omega-3, EPA, and DHA very slowly and at a low percentage, between 7 and 15%. So although hemp oil is a very good oil, and I would never discourage you from taking it, if you're really looking to optimize the power of your brain and reduce inflammation in your brain and reduce depression and fatigue and sleep better and stave off Alzheimer's, you've got to do the marine oils, or you do an algae, if you're vegan or whatever, find yourself an algae-based DHA or an EPA containing oil.
I'm sorry, I said hemp heart.
I'm not sure what that is. I'm just not understanding.
Hemp heart? Hemp heart.
Oh, hemp heart. Hemp hearts. Well, it's going to be the same thing. I mean, obviously you don't have to take cod liver oil if you consume a lot of fish. So just like with the hemp hearts, I mean, I think that's a high fiber, high protein. It's a very good organic food that you can include in salads and whatever, but it's not going to replace fish oil for the brain.
Okay, there's a hand. There's a lady standing in the back.
Are you talking about nature?
Yes, ma'am.
What about sardines?
So let me tell you a little story. So we have we're working with a large corporation to try to make their population healthy. And the truck driver says he eats pretzels on his 8-hour truck driving trip. So all it is sugar in a bread form. And I said, what do you like to eat that's oily and fishy? He says, I love sardines. So I said, you're the guy. And he now takes sardines with him in his truck. So basically, variety is the spice of life. I think the reason why Dr. Trempe, particularly in America, supplements with cod liver oil is because it has natural vitamin A. Beta-carotene is not vitamin A. Vitamin A is a complex mixture. Cod liver oil has it in a beautiful form. It has the natural forms of vitamin D. It has all the fat-soluble vitamins. And it has the EPA and DHA. Sardines will have that to a large extent as well. But so what we recommend, and the nice thing about sardines is they're low in the food chain, so they haven't collected a lot of mercury. Like the big fish have a lot more mercury, whereas the little fish don't, and they're closer to the algae, so we recommend that. But I think everybody will do well by doing what grandmother used to give them and take a little cod liver oil too. But I'm bullish on sardines.
Great. Is there a hand right here? There's a lady right here. No? Okay, so we have, there's one lady. Yes, please go ahead, lady, stand up.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, how about krill oil?
Yeah, so once again, I think krill oil is a very concentrated source of the very healthy marine fatty acids. So krill oil is what I call krill oil fish oil on steroids. But cod liver oil has the vitamin A and vitamin D that these other things don't have. So for example, if you're already taking krill oil, add a little cod liver oil into your life.
Okay. Dosage.
So I don't look upon any of these oils, marine oils, as a supplement. They're a food. So if you have not had a lot of marine oils in your life, or you have a lot of these cheap oils, the soybean oils or other oils, we recommend 15 grams a day taken at nighttime, because that's when your brain recovers for 6 months. And then you can taper to, say, 5 grams. So 15 grams, by the way, is 15 capsules. And nobody wants to choke down 15 capsules. That's why our family, we get the liquid cod liver oil, we pour a third of a shot glass, take a little lemon water, shoot the cod liver oil, chase it with lemon water, and it never happened. It never happened, okay? I and you just got your 15 grams. But that'll help lose weight, it'll help reduce inflammation, it upregulates your immune system, it fights infection, it's miraculous.
Is that for day?
The young, per day. Oh yeah. So, so let me just warn you about the 15 grams. A lot of people aren't used to that kind of fat and may have cod liver oil or fish oil, burp, or whatever. Taper up. Lather it up. Do it on a full stomach after dinner. We sleep. My biceps rested. What's not rested in my body? My brain. We sleep for our brain. Our brain's still active when we sleep, but it's less active. Our brain repairs at nighttime. Give it that good nutrition before you go to bed. And then you won't have, if you go out and run and you had cod liver oil before breakfast and you went out for a run, you're going to hate me. I promise you. But if you take it after dinner on a full stomach before you go to bed, in 6 months you'll sleep better, you'll move better, you'll be healthier, you'll live longer, your life will be better. But see, cod liver oil is just one thing. It's multiple things, but we got to get the minerals in. Sea salt, we're all potassium deficient, that's why we have high blood pressure, we have too much sodium, not enough potassium. There's a bunch of things that Dr. Cousins is aware of that we're working and collaborating with her that'll help you. So like cod liver oil is sort of like one thing. But if I had to leave you tonight with one thing to go out the door with, it's take your cod liver oil. Your grandmother told you to take your cod liver oil, your grandmother gave it to your mother. Was she wrong? She might have pulled your ear, it might have hurt a little bit. And back then it stunk. But Carlson's does not stink. That's why I recommend the liquid, because you can take it out of the refrigerator, smell it, lemon flavor, just shoot it, it's not that big a deal.
Awesome. I think we have one last question. Beautiful lady right here.
Have you read any studies or seen any studies about a vegetarian or a vegan diet and its potential impact on degenerative disease?
Yes. Well, Dr. McCulley, who's our 83-year-old colleague at Harvard, ran clinical pathology lab at Harvard for New England for many, many years, wrote a whole paper on vegetarianism. You can't get the oils that support your brain for those diets. You just can't. Now, there are some exceptions. If you have, I'm not being like sexist here, but if you have a little Indian, like Asian Indian mother cooking for you in the back kitchen, a beautiful vegetarian, a vegan meal, you'll be healthy for a long time. But if vegetarian or vegan diet is eating pizza, you're going to be in big trouble. Dr. Trempe sees these vegetarian and vegans at 45 years old, and the back of their eyes look horrible because they're B12 deficient, they're micronutrient deficient, they're healthy fish oil deficient. The plants, most of the oils upregulate inflammation, whereas the marine oils downregulate inflammation. You can't fight that. You just can't fight that. So it's really it's a challenge. So we're dealing with vegans and vegetarians, and I think I mentioned earlier, find yourself an algae source. If you insist on being that, you're going to have to supplement for some of these other nutrients. It's just the plant is not the whole solution. From a biblical perspective as well, evolutionary biblical. So, folks, thanks very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to Dr. Thomas Lewis.
Okay, we'll just quickly say thank you to everyone for coming. You know, it was a night well spent. Thank you very much for supporting me. Thank you for all my patients from family practice that I see in the crowd. Thank you to a lot of the charities that supported. Age Concern was a big help. Vitals with the nurses, they were a big help. Concerning, just a thing, concerning what Dr. Trempe said about the eye exam and the companies, the offices that are able to do it. So I checked around, there are only 2 offices on the island that has the instrument, and Argus Optical was one of them that we found out. Yeah, the OCT instrument, Argus Optical has it. And she said one of the doctors does have it on the island so that we can get that done. But just want to thank everybody. I'm sorry if I forgot anybody to thank you. But I hope we'll use all this information so that we can better ourselves and better others. You know, it's another thing. None of these doctors charged me, by the way. So, you know, it was like when they were coming, you know how you were very, you wonder what they're getting out of it. You know, people tell you, oh, it's free, but you're kind of like, yeah, right. And seriously, I mean, they give away books, and I'm like, who gives away books? I can call them anytime for information. They don't hug it, they don't hide it. There's no magical portion that they have hidden. Really nice. So we are very blessed to have them, and we really want to have them. And thank you, Maxine, for helping me to do this. All right, thank you everyone, and have a good night, and have a safe travel home.